We're back. Episode number 17. Is it really?
It is of our breakfast time chat series, which many of you may not know, but it was a going concern in 2019 and 20.
It was fun.
They're great. It's Colleen's brainchild. So it was wonderful. So we missed you last night, but had a bizarre situation with regard to the power going out on a perfectly beautiful, gorgeous evening, perfect temperature outside. And it was going to be for a really wonderful evening and a beautiful fire. So everybody stayed. We had the fire. We just missed you guys so much. So
we did, but we did have a wonderful conversation.
We really did.
And it was powerful. It was fun, right, Gene?
They did. I was helping the electrical guys, CFE. I was helping TV. They were going like, well, where's the problem? Going, it's always here. It's always this location. It's always here. Come on, hurry up. Let's get this done. So they were having a wonderful conversation, which is great.
So let's get this party started.
Let's get this party started. So breakfast time chat number 17. So what does it mean to be John Galted, and who are the good guys? And
where did John Galt start?
Yeah, so this goes all the way back once again to Ayn Rand. And as Colleen and I have shared with you for 4 years, that Fountainhead and the Atlas Shrugged trilogy are two of the greatest books ever written. I would put both of them within the top 10 of the 10 best, most important books ever written. They're brilliant. And so when you really take a hard look at what's been going on, either the Q plan is so incredibly modeled after Ayn Rand's mindset, or Ayn Rand was absolutely read into this. Now, remember, Ayn Rand's family came from Russia, and they escaped communism in Russia, and they were all in with the White Russians, which are the Tartarians, which are the Aryans, basically what Ayn Rand's father and mother and Ayn Rand all believed in was sort of a very pure Adam Smithian outlook towards economics, which is that you don't need rules and regulations per se. You just need the entire system to be ruled by the hands of God. Not the hands of man. If Adam Smith powerfully wrote in his treatise on economics, is that if economics does fall into the hands of greed, lust, and violence, the hands of man, then you can rest assured. In what did Adam Smith say? It won't matter if it is purely, right-wing capitalism, or if it is purely middle-of-the-road socialism, or if it is far-left communism. It'll all fail. It'll all fail if it's left to the greed, lust, and violence of the hands of man. And so at the end of the day, that's what Adam Smith said, is that you need to have righteous men and women who are making righteous decisions where everybody benefits. And this is the world that Ayn Rand believed in. And when they came to America, this is what they were hoping to find. And when Ayn Rand came to America, what she found out was that these rich and powerful people, like the Rockefellers, who were the arm of the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, who are the Khazarian mafia in America, weren't geniuses. They weren't brilliant businessmen. They were just criminals, and they were connected to a system that had essentially exercised a stranglehold over the entire earth with regard to the financial system. So she knew it was a fake. It was a fake and a phony, and that really, really burned Ayn Rand. And so from that moment on, she just wanted to see the system crash. So you see how Ayn Rand is hand in glove with the Q team and the White Hats, hand in glove. And remember, again, her family escaped out of Russia. They were all in with the White Russians, and they escaped communism because they knew what communism stood for. And Ayn Rand exposed that in all of her stories. So In the trilogy novel, which is called Atlas Shrugged, the feature character is someone named John Galt. And so the main sort of writing ploy through the first two books is, who is John Galt? And that this name was circulating everywhere because someone was coming along and encouraging the best, the brightest. So this is a meretricious system. The best and the brightest, those who possessed real genius and whatever line of intellectual property, exercised through genius. And John Galt quietly, privately, secretively approached each of these individuals and said, there's something better. I'd like to show you something better, and I'd like you to be a part of something better. And so remember, in Atlas Shrugged, the purpose of all of this wasn't to selfishly create a breakaway society and only the special ones were allowed in. This is not what some people allege with regard to Atlas Shrugged. It's not the case at all. The whole point was to create, was to show, because you can't tell people, you have to allow them to see it, was to show people that there is a better way, that there is an incredibly better way. And so that behind the scenes in a place called Atlantis that was being hidden magnetic electrically behind essentially a force field, a magnetic force field, was being hidden away within the Rockies. And here was this headquarters of these righteous men and women. And what they were interested in is the full fruition of the gnosis that came to them, the ideas that they held completely true to, and then the full unleashing of the brilliance of the system. Now, remember, these are meretricious systems. These are systems that are created by the best of us for the best functioning of our society as a group. But again, you can't have any middlemen. You can't have anybody in the way suppressing the perfection of these ideas. Is essentially what they were. And so that's what John Galt did. John Galt offered these people and said, why would you stay inside of a system that is using you? And when they're through using you, then they will destroy every single last ounce of you. They'll destroy your name, and they will essentially steal everything that you possess, your intellectual property, your sweat equity. And of course, in the first book of the Atlas Shrugged trilogy, you had two key components, a man and a woman. So you had Hank Rearden for Rearden Steel. Rearden Steel was once again one of these advanced technologies where you could have stronger, more powerful, more integral elements that were being used, but were massively less in weight than raw steel. And that's what Hank Rearden was doing. And so Rearden steel was stronger and lighter and therefore incredibly cheaper. And so they hated Hank Rearden because Hank was creating a monopoly for himself by being brilliant, and everybody else was just being stupid. So it was ridiculous. Okay, and then the female character of the family railway, Dagny. So Dagny is laying the tracks. Eugene, you want to share with everyone how you saw the great symbology of the railway tracks also being the ladder? Go ahead.
Yeah, and not just that, how, was it Hank Rearden was doing everything on his own, whereas the government wants to make a monopoly by force. Hank Rearden was just doing it by authenticity, by just doing what he does best. And exactly, I think steel is also a reference of Mars. So he had that margin, never, like, he's always going to war. He's never going to be cut off. And yeah, the rail tracks were straight and narrow. And also, yeah, it looked like a ladder. So it's almost like Jacob's ladder. And funny enough, Jacob was wrestling with an angel, the ego. So this could be interpreted as the governed mind, the government, the whole time. So through all that, and every time they're building something new, I mean, same with, Howard Rourke. Everyone was saying, "Oh, it's not going to succeed. It's the worst railroad," with no like reason at all. It's just the democratic mob rule. Sorry, Colleen, were you saying something? You're on mute, ma'am.
Sorry about that. Yeah,
In the Fountainhead.
Howard Rourke is from the Fountainhead. So yeah, great analogy.
Exactly, and they're very similar in my opinion. The two characters, and they both gave speeches on how like communism. It's just again, it's the left brain. It's electricity. There's no creativity. There's no magnetism. There's no renewing. We were talking about being born again the other day, and there is no being born again. It's a degeneration. It's a constant dying, and this is communism because it's taking all the resourcing. There's no resource. Anyway, yeah, you guys can keep going.
Don't forget to talk about the railways.
Well, Eugene mentioned it. It was great because what Eugene picked out was that the two of them together were bridging a better world together through his metal, which was this light metal, because we have to rise to heaven. So it was pure genius. And then Dagny simply had the wherewithal. She had the will to do God's will and to bring people together when everything else was falling apart. And then it was just Eugene who looked at the railway lines as straight and narrow, which of course they are, and that were leading to this one place. And so, of course, what is the culmination of in the first book, which is also the first movie? What is the culmination of the project in Colorado, God's country? And the culmination was the bridge, the John Galt Bridge for the John Galt line. And then here it was just this lightweight bridge that spanned the divide between the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. And they did a wonderful job in the movie because there was wonderful movie cinematography. Well, it was digitally done. The bridge and the train was all added in digitally. It was beautifully done. But it was just wonderful because inside the train with the conductor and then just the two of them, Dagny and Hank, the conductor said, he was giving them an update on the speeds, and he's saying, we are now going faster than any land vehicle has ever gone in the United States of America. And then they came around the corner, and then there was that glorious span of that white metal bridge, and they crossed the chasm between two worlds and bridged two worlds into one, and they came into the station, and they had the world by the tail, except the cabal had other plans. And so what you see in movie one and movie two is that Hank and Dagny were holding on and not giving up, not giving in to the cabal until such time that the cabal did everything to just cut Hank Reardon's incredible realm, because Hank owned everything himself. He did everything himself. So he had the oars to be able to do all of this. He had the transportation to be able to transport. He had the equipment, machinery to be able to harvest all of it, and he smelted it all together. He did everything. He owned everything. And then they had the dog-eat-dog rule, which only allowed one business or one corporation to own one aspect of their business, and all the rest had to be sold. And then eventually, by the end of the second book, Hank Reardon voluntarily goes to Atlantis, leaving Dagny in anger that she's been abandoned, left alone. And then she attempts to follow what turns out to be.
Because she wants to try
Junior.
to change the system from within.
Yeah.
Which at that point, the system's broken and
Yes.
it just needs to fall and crumble. And so
Right.
she just wasn't at that perspective yet. She hadn't seen enough apparently to know that there is a better way. The
Well,
system,
because the mother is always rising, right? The mother is always moving, whereas the father is still. So there is that capability of collapsing into the void. And also, before we jump off of metal, it's funny how you said conductor, because metal conducts, doesn't it? And we were talking about how the conductor said, we're going faster than ever. We're conducting more than ever, which is magnetism once again. And that metal comes to 51, because when you said metal, it just sparked. I was like, what is metal's gematria? Metal 51, Mars 51, saved 51, Michael 51, great 51, wave 51. Please keep going.
beautiful. So, but I have to interject here that, oh no, okay, keep going. I'll do it later. I'll do it later.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Tamara?
yeah.
Okay. So that's what we just wanted to point out is this very important overview, essentially, especially to Atlas Shrugged, and that behind the scenes you had John Galt, who is John Galting people to Atlantis. Now, again,
The meretricious people.
they always attempt to paint Ayn Rand as an atheist, didn't believe in God. No, she didn't believe in bullshit religion. She absolutely knew of the creator. She was a white Russian. Of course, Ayn Rand was all in with God. And that's why you see in everything that she ever did was completely connected to this higher gnosis, higher truth about God. And that's why everybody wanted to play Howard Rourke in the Fountainhead, and that's why everybody wanted to play John Galt in Atlas Shrugged, because these are two of the most devout, authentic,
Immovable.
that's right, immovable loggerheads.
What's that?
Where Satan could gain not an inch with these characters. And that's why in Hollywood, the actors were literally fighting over to get the lead roles in these movies. And the same applies for a character like Hank Rearden as well.
Uncheck that box.
Uncheck this box.
Okay. Now it should be better.
So that's sort of the background to Ayn Rand and Atlas Shrugged, and this is the term John Galted. So that John Galt came and offered something better. But again, let me just clarify: this was not to pull people away to this fantasy land of Atlantis, and that only the very meretricious ones were allowed in. No, it was to create an alternative to the system that was surely going to crash. So again, you see how Ayn Rand saw all of this and knew all of this, that there's no other way, that for whatever reason, the cabal was literally attempting to crash this system. And of course, the system, where did she base all of this? In the States, because the States was the pinnacle of this Adam Smith economics, hand of God versus the hand of man, and this righteous nation with its righteous constitution, everything was designed to be this. And remember in the show that we did about the truth of the Freemasons connected to the Knights Templar, connected to the Gnostics, who are the Essenes, and how we were sharing with you through all of that. This is the same group. This is the same group, and that the plan, their plan was the new world order. So you see how the cabal, they don't have the capacity to create anything. They just steal everything. So the origins of the Freemason plan was the new world order. America was to be this new world order. And this was the new world order where God would reign supreme through his mighty son at his right-hand side, which is Jesus Christ. And that we would exist in what did they call it? What did they call that America would be known as with this Freemason New World Order? What was it called? The New Atlantis. The New Atlantis. So again, you see Ayn Rand tapped right in to the true Freemasons, to the Knights Templar, which of course, I mean, who are these people? Who are the true Freemasons? Who are the Knights Templar? Who are the Gnostics? Who are the Essenes? They're the Aryans. Who are the Tartarians? Who are the White Russians?
Remember, they've been infiltrated and they've been made to look like they are.
And they are now. We will, you know, we share that as much as anybody else, that current Freemasonry has been completely hijacked, but it's been turned upside down. And so their new world order is not to exalt America into the new Atlantis. It's to plummet America down beneath the waves where the old Atlantis is as well. They want to destroy everything that is righteous, that is goodly, and that is godly. Okay, so that's the background. This is what John Galting means. And so about 3 years ago, maybe 4, who knows now, but Colleen and I began using this term in earnest to the concept of everyone who was being pulled out of the system, or even applying it to people who were dangerously, very dangerously doing these undercover roles. And so, and again, remember, the purpose is not to yank these people away to a special playground for just the special people. So it's just Princess Di, it's just Michael Jackson, it's just Prince, and they're just hanging around having a great time because, you know, they're talented, they're brilliant, they're righteous, and the rest of us can go F ourselves.
It's like a safety zone where they could raise their families and save the world at the same time.
Exactly. So please don't miss this key point. The John Galting process is to keep them safe, but it's to allow the full fruition of their ideas. And so I believe very strongly that John F. Kennedy Jr., who became, you know, sort of the action, the Q action, he's R, Q is the team, Q plus is Trump. But in many regards, John F. Kennedy Jr.
The motor
is Q
of the
because
world.
he's the motor of the world. He's John Galt. There's not for nothing.
Well, actually, we're the motor of the world, but I mean, he's getting our motor going.
For sure. And he was action, which is Q. Q is action. Q is the Ouroboros just spins around until it reaches
It's creation.
up. And
could I add something here? Because the Q is the bridge. And what is it the bridge to? Because it's the system can be equated to samsara. So the people that are beyond the system must be taken out because the system itself must crash. That's why the John Galts of John Galts, the chief uniter, which is probably JFK Jr., as Charlie is saying, is the uniter of this dielectromagnetic force that's beyond the electric downfall. So there needs to be someone that's like bringing them out of the system. And also there must be an end for there to be a new beginning. So the system must fall. That's why Atlas shrugs, right? And the weight must come crashing down so that Jesus can take the weight and the burden can be light. Anyway, I keep going.
And again, brilliant. And remember, we're Atlas. We are Atlas. You cannot miss the symbology of this because the journey of man is 33 vertebrae. And the 33rd vertebrae is named Atlas. And what Ayn Rand is saying is that we must shrug because we've been given the satanic weight of the world on our shoulders while they harvest our children. And enough is fucking enough. And we have to shrug and we have to say no more of this absolute insanity. And so you can't miss this analogy. Atlas shrugging is us. We have to be shown that there is something better. And that's the heart and soul to the movie. Why is this a movie? Why did Ayn Rand write a book? Because it's the only way. You have to show them. She can't just go around on talk shows and talk, but they would never put her on. But when you write a book like The Fountainhead and it sells millions of copies out of absolute nowhere, then she's going to be on show after show after show because the success speaks, it talks, and therefore it resonates. And the same is so true with Atlas Shrugged. And then you have to ask yourself, why did it take so long to turn Atlas Shrugged into a movie? And then ultimately, where did the money come from? And how did this all come together? Because Hollywood should have been all over Atlas Shrugged, the trilogy. Hollywood should have been all over The Lord of the Rings. And you just start looking around, and right around 1999, whose plane crashed, giving him lots of time, lots of freedom now, right? Because he doesn't have to make public appearances, any longer. Suddenly, what starts to happen in 99? The Matrix. Oh, then The Lord of the Rings, then the Atlas Shrugged movies, then V for Vendetta, then the second and the third parts of the Matrix movies, and all of the weight of Harry Potter. Field of Dreams was earlier, but again, it's a single movie, and then the Harry Potter series being controlled by them at a certain point, was all through those 2000s as well. So as I've said to you so many times, John Kennedy couldn't wait any longer. That's why when Justin and Colleen and I were doing those shows about John F. Kennedy Jr. on Larry King or on Jay Leno or wherever he was going, everywhere he went, he was provoking the Clintons, provoking the cabal to do something. For God's sake, get the courage and try and take me out, so that they could do the John Galting process to JFK Jr. himself, because he needed to be John Galted desperately, couldn't wait any longer. So that tells you a lot about the cabal in and of themselves as well, and that tells you everything about John F. Kennedy Jr. He provoked them. So don't think for a second, any of you that are denying any of this, that somehow the Clintons outfoxed John F. Kennedy Jr. and they took that plane down. Come on, wake up. There is not even close.
And Charlie, I would also say this is a common reoccurrence where the Q team, where the White Hats use Sun Tzu. They use their card against them. So when they think they have the upper hand, that's when they start going with their plan.
Yeah.
I wanted to just mention that, of course, John Galt we all understand now that John Galting someone is to put them it's like witness protection, or it's like protecting them and bringing to another society where they can, be safe. So,
but remember the flip side, the most important, that is very, very, very important, because these people we're going to go through this. They're all going to be taken out. But remember, it's to allow the plans that each and every one of them had. All of them had a calling. Prince had a specific calling. Robin Williams had a specific calling. There are aspects of the cabal that affect each of us a little bit differently. They affect all of us that are righteous, that are switched on. But they affect some more so than others, different areas and aspects, and they can't stay any longer. They have to be, they're begging to be pulled out of this because they want to go 100% behind the scenes and take down this evil. Go.
But the John Galting process didn't start with Ayn Rand. So there have been, since the beginning of time, many, and on both sides, they would have people die and then they would not be dead.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're talking a lot of the beheadings that were happening, and a lot of them. We don't know how many of those people have actually been just sequestered away and changed their name, and like same with the Titanic or any of those other, major events that happened, and they said this person's dead, that person's dead. We don't know. We don't know if they're actually just John Galted, and on both sides. So I think we're going to be surprised when the truth comes out about all of that. But we have some speculations.
Yeah, a lot, which we're going to get into. But the other aspect to all of this, remember, is that while Colleen is saying, so this goes way back, and it does, and certain people were being John Galted. But remember, the other aspect to all of this are the undercover agents, are the ones that in plain sight were there for us to keep society as close to on the level as possible. So, for example, who was William Shakespeare? Who was Shakespeare? And whomever that person was, it's a white hat. And whoever William Shakespeare was absolutely an Aryan, and is playing a massively important role in the west of Europe, which is as far away at that point, which is as far away from the cradle or the center of civilization. And really that's coming out of northern India, right? So this is that Vedic period in India through the north, where everything then went northwest because of the Himalayas and the Hindu Kush mountains to the north and to the northeast, blocking any exit out of India, so that the pass out of India was to the north and west. And if you go to the north and west out of northern India, you go into Afghanistan, which is the doorstep to Persia, which then leads to Babylon, which then leads to the Holy Land, which then leads to Egypt, which then leads to the Mediterranean, which then leads to Europe, which then leads to the New World. And so you see how all of mankind moved forward in genius and righteousness through this Vedic period in northern India to the northwest, and it went to Afghanistan, and this is why from Afghanistan through Persia, Iran, or Babylon, Iraq, to the Holy Land, as you go through this geographical footprint, you see all of these people of different colored skin but blue eyes, and the Aryans, the calling card of the Aryans is everywhere. And then everywhere you go, this is why you see pyramids everywhere. And as they came into Europe, and they went up both sides of the Adriatic, so they went the boot of Italy, but they also went the Asian side of the Adriatic as well. And going up through Bosnia, Serbia, what eventually all became combined into Yugoslavia, obviously up through Greece and into Romania, Bulgaria, and all the way up the Danube. That's why you see pyramids everywhere. So we become very fixated upon the Great Pyramids at Giza, which is upon this prime parallel. So it's very important. But there were pyramids being built everywhere. And so they were all being done by these Aryans, which is again through this Vedic period, of which Hinduism and then Buddhism. This is where Zoroaster came out of this. This is the awakening. This is the awakening of the fallen man, when the Aryans came forward, and they were the enemy to these unholy ones. Obviously, the Khazarian mafia is a part of that, but it's more than that. It's more than that. You had people who were doing right, and you had people who were doing wrong. You had Canaanites, and you had real Jews. You had Canaanites, and you had Aryans. And this is what really was going on, and it just continued and continued right to Adolf Hitler. It continued and continued. So
what better way to dominate the Canaanites by again letting them think that they're winning? Because only then can you save everyone too, because they're so arrogant to think, because like once the Canaanites think they lose, they don't play by the rules. I mean, not like they do, but they're just going to kill everyone, and they're just going to murder everyone because they're salty, right? And get this: wall 48, veil 48, evil 48, live 48, Levi 48. Wasn't Levi the son? And he was also the uniter. So it's interesting how the uniter, because of the evil, must go behind the veil. By the way, evil, veil, live, Levi, all the same word. But please keep going.
Yeah, absolutely so true, Eugene. And thank you for bringing that example up. And it is so true. So this is the background to the show today, and this is the realm of what we're dealing with. And the thing is that the other aspect of all of this is that Colleen and I were noticing the connections, powerful connections, in so many ways between between the Kennedy Trump White Hat group, the Q team, the Q team, Q plan, and Atlas Shrugged. So much so that that after we rewatched the Atlas Shrugged series, I said, and then we had just finished watching a couple of these white hat production movies, very important ones by someone named Joe M. And Colleen and I were decoding that define, projection, Joe M. are, again, just different nom de plume for John F. Kennedy Jr. And so I said, isn't that the voice? Remember back at the beginning, I'm sure that that is the exact same voice accredited to Joe M. at the beginning of Atlas Shrugged. So we went back, and there it was at the 47-second mark of the first movie, 47 John, of the first movie. There is a reporter talking about how bad things are, which is what the videos that Joe M did, right? He did a series of 3 shorter videos all around 10, 12-minute mark, and just pointing out, you know, what the plan is how it's based around Trump, that the evil had spread everywhere and had to be taken down. And so, and Joe M speaks for 17 seconds at the 47-second mark. So John speaking for 17 Q seconds. And so there is another massive, powerful tie into Atlas Shrugged as well. So we began to talk about this. And what Colleen and I did is that we said that what is so clear is that not only is there a group that has been John Galted that have been taken behind the scenes to protect them because they were going to be off, and to then work on their plans, to work on their idea, but that there were the good guys who were left in plain sight. And these, of course, are all the ones where the weight of this evil organized society falls against these people. And then you can just start looking around at some of these names. These are, you know, so for example, right away, Colleen and I identified Kevin Costner. And you look at the movies that Kevin Costner did, and in particular, the movies that he put up his own money for, or that he wrote the screenplays for, or that he directed, like Dances with Wolves, and or produced as well. And the further you go along with this, what you sort of see with someone like Kevin Costner is that that the sort of average movie role was no longer being offered to him. And after Dances with Wolves, Kevin Costner should have been the #1 star in movie star in the world. Should absolutely have been the #1 star in the world, with Dances with Wolves and everything he had been doing. And he's just painting a picture which is righteous, which is goodly, and which is that we must do this and that the system is evil. Are you almost finished here?
Yeah.
There, kiddo. I'll just wait for. So with Kevin Costner, what you saw is this hiding away, this obfuscation of Kevin Costner, and that the roles that should have been offered to Kevin Costner, big roles, simply were not being offered at all. And that for Kevin Costner, he had to then put the money that he made through Dances with Wolves, and he had to put up the money and had to find his own financing to do Dances with Wolves. Hollywood didn't want to make this movie. So then he was using that money to then make Waterworld. and the Search for Dry Land, which is an allegory for God, right? Which is the lawfulness of God, the white shores of the Father. And so everywhere else is the satanic seas. And
getting off the maritime admiralty waters, getting off the dead ship that's sinking, aka the one John Galt is saving you from.
That's right. And remember, you can't miss the symbology in this, that that the bad guys in Waterworld were centered on one massive ship. Does anyone remember? Does anyone remember? I do. Does anyone else remember which ship this just happened to be in Waterworld? We'll wait in the chats here because you can't miss the symbology for this, right? What was the name of this massive? It was a tanker. It was a tanker, and it was the Exxon Valdez. So the Exxon Valdez that had run aground off the coast of Alaska, and had let loose a ton of oil and destroying all of this pristine wildlife along the shores of Alaska, and everybody going, well, he was drunk, and then he's saying, I'm not drunk, I was just following. Everything was being done by being routed to us by satellites, and we were just following orders and stuff. And then he just, I forget what the captain's name was of the Exxon Valdez, Joseph Smith or something like that. And he was just ripped apart for not going along and just being the fall guy. And so Kevin Costner uses that the pirates are headquartered on the Exxon Valdez. I mean, it's perfect.
Joseph Hazelwood.
Joseph Hazelwood. And they portrayed him as a career drunk, and that it was human error, it was his fault and stuff. And then he started to fight back and tell a different story and whatnot. So it's just perfect. And then we broke down, we decoded for you the postman. And how more than anything else, what the postman was kind of like Colleen and Justin and I are going around providing hope, selling this for free hopium to everybody. And that's ultimately more than anything else what Kevin Costner's role in The Postman was simply to give people hope that the United States of America would be coming back, that we would take back our power from these hidden demons that had destroyed everything, and people needed hope. And then you saw all of these people, kids, volunteering their lives just to be able to deliver the mail, and the mail has to go through, and then how all of this ties into the U.S. Postal Service and the U.S. Post Office and the position of the Postmaster General, which is where, as it all turns out, that the original Constitution, the original flag, and all the original articles of righteous Constitution were being hidden away, were being stored away in the office of the Postmaster General. And then we had the fake country, the corporation of the United States of America. We had the fake flag with the yellow frazzle, and this is the Maritime Admiralty Sea courting that goes along with all of their pomp and pageantry. So it's the false flag, false constitution, false corporation. So it's just brilliant. Kevin Costner, going all the way back to all those movies about baseball. Why baseball with Kevin Costner? Because baseball is an alchemical game. Baseball is a game that was made to be America's pastime. It is our pastoral right to play baseball, because what's the purpose of baseball? It's to connect to God, to stay on the path that is straight and narrow, and to go home.
And isn't base alkalinity, like when something's basic?
That's right, which is, and the base path is that straight and narrow way. And that's why it's all diamonds, and that's why there's a home team, and that's why there's a visitors team.
And just the word home, the breath of God, Om. It's brilliant.
And which side of the diamond is the home team dugout always on? It's always on one side that faces to the east, just so you know, and that the visitors are always to the opposite side of what is right, which could be construed as wrong, and that is facing west, which is death. And there's an infield, and then there's an outfield. And It is perfection. It's perfection. And that's why you see Kevin Costner doing all of these baseball movies, so many baseball movies, and they're just giving you the highest of high and the truth of truth, such as Field of Dreams, The Corn in Iowa. This is Jacob telling.
We just watched this the other night, and
Yeah.
oh my goodness, I
Yeah.
could watch it again and again. It's
Yeah.
just beautiful, beautiful movie.
Yeah, and so it's just, the corn in Iowa is the same as the great drought that was existing, and Jacob told his 10 remaining sons, because he kept Benjamin at home with him, and of course he was told that Joseph had been murdered, and so he sends his 10 sons, that 9 of which, not Judah, but 9 of which were guilty in conspiring to kill Joseph, because Joseph, with the many-colored jacket that his father gave to him, because Joseph is Jesus, they conspired to kill. So they have to go, because Jacob had heard that there was corn in Egypt, and that they should go and to bring home corn seed and edible corn for their huge family. And when they get there, they're greeted by their brother, Joseph, who had risen through his righteousness with God, through his ability to interpret, to decode dreams, to decode the word of God to the Pharaoh. Joseph had risen to this highest position underneath the Pharaoh. So there was nobody higher underneath the Pharaoh now than Joseph, which is this Hebrew who is the chosen son of Jacob, and whom Jacob wanted to marry in the beginning, which was Rachel. And Rachel was described as being the most beautiful. And just like Jesus, Joseph is described as being so incredibly beautiful. And there, what does Joseph do? He takes pity on his brothers, because what Joseph sees is that his brothers were only playing a role, and that this was God's plan, and that Joseph was put there to have this enormous power to help as many people as possible, including those of the Holy Land who came seeking for corn in Iowa. Is this heaven? It's Iowa. I think it must be heaven then, and it is, because the corn in Iowa, the corn in Egypt, is the flowering of the pineal gland, which was Joseph, which is Jesus. So it is so beautiful, and it's biblical, and all of this ties in together. So there are good guys that have done perhaps even greater work, certainly more. I think they will get less fanfare for it, as a result of staying within the system, and they have taken the brunt of the blows of the cabal. And these are the ones like Kevin Costner, like Mel Gibson, and like Keanu Reeves, who have stayed and have been these lightning rods for righteousness and for goodness. And they have helped so many people. And you go around, and this is what we talk about, decoding all of the songs and stuff. You go around the music world, and you just see this family that all grew up of God. And when you look at them behind the scenes and stuff, they're all wearing crosses. A lot of times they don't wear the crosses on stage live or during the videos, the making of, or DVDs or whatever. But when you see them behind the scenes and all of this, they're just, oh wow, it's incredible. So you're looking at this group, and so you see Donald Fagen and Walter Becker from Steely Dan. You see Boz Scaggs, how they're tied. Michael McDonald, how the band Toto is tied to this, and that's David Page, who were the founding members, David Page and the Porcaro brothers, and Jeff Porcaro. And then Jeff Porcaro, amazingly, the best drummer in the world, dies in 1992 from a bizarre incident with an allergic reaction to a bee spray. He had bees on his property, and he sprayed, and he had an allergic reaction to it, and it happened really fast, and he was dead like that. or did Jeff Porcaro scream to be John Galted? And when you start listening to interviews with all of this family, and by the way, they're all tied to Michael Jackson and the Michael Jackson Thriller album.
So that's what gives you clues, and that's what we do. We go back and we look at
Exactly.
where are the clues, where are they saying to us, you know, that they are, and Michael Jackson himself, and just even the name of his last tour was, "This is it." I mean, there's just clues everywhere, and you know, the fact that he was friends with this Dave, and then Dave, it's just like so bizarre. All of this was just so bizarre.
Yeah, so when they had the tribute concert for Jeff Porcaro, everybody who showed up at the press conference and then to perform this incredible night of songs that were all done as tributes to Jeff, the amazing Jeff Porcaro. Because what did they describe Jeff Porcaro? He was like God incarnate, and everywhere that Jeff Porcaro went, he raised you up because his energy was so infectious, and the whole Porcaro family is so righteous, it's ridiculous. And so when you look at everybody who showed up to perform, and we're talking Eddie Van Halen and David Crosby, and again Boz Scaggs, and of course everybody within Toto, and Donald Fagen, and you go through this incredible array of stars. They're all how we describe the Christian rockers who were all creating the rolling the rock, rock and roll. And they were all there, and they were all the ones who were there to help Michael Jackson turn Thriller into the perfect album that it was. And who was putting them all together? They all said it was Jeff Porcaro. Jeff Porcaro saying to Michael, you know what, who would be amazing on this song would be Eddie Van Halen. And Michael Jackson's like, well, I really like Eddie Van Halen, but I don't think Eddie Van Halen would play him right. Are you kidding? You're Michael Jackson. He said, just if it's okay with you, I'll get Eddie Van Halen here tomorrow. Phones up Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen says, I don't need a ticket. I'll find my own fucking way. Michael Jackson, are you kidding me? And Eddie Van Halen on his own dime comes there, and then Steve Lukather from Toto and Eddie Van Halen from Van Halen, and they're doing all of these unbelievable guitar licks and transforming what was going to be a great album into perfection and grace, which is what that album was. And this is what we're talking about. There's a group of people who stayed behind to be the bastions of truth, to be the bastions of God. And these are bands, these are actors, these are writers that just put it on the chin, because everywhere you go, the system is satanic. And so God can't be mentioned. God can't be exalted. And it's just sickening. So they have fought the longest battle. They have fought the hardest of fights. And there are those that we still don't know. And I will say this to you again, and that's okay. I'm not speaking for Colleen. I am not speaking for Justin. I'm not speaking for Eugene. But I don't believe for a fucking second that Arnold Schwarzenegger is a bad guy. Not at all. Arnold, the Kennedys, first off, Eunice Kennedy was a really, really brilliant individual, and a beautiful, beautiful woman inside and out. And she married Sergeant Shriver, who was a very, very righteous man. And the kids that they had, which included, who's the gorgeous girl that married Arnold Schwarzenegger? Maria Shriver. And so Maria Shriver, these are just beautiful, righteous kids inside and out. Very, very devout family. Very, very, very devout. And so there's no way in the world that they would allow her to marry Arnold Schwarzenegger. Eugene, you speak.
I don't really have anything to say right now.
Come on, say something.
I don't know. I just always liked Arnold because it just seemed like he was breaking boundaries. Like it seemed like he was. I mean, just like being just so strong and just constantly like pushing. Like I don't know. I just have respect for people that are that are super strong and can push past what people have said so far.
Seriously, you cannot shut this guy up at all until you absolutely need him. Nothing.
But okay, we were talking about Joseph. Joseph 73, Ezekiel 73, children 73, Nimrod 73. Funny enough, Egypt 73, perfect 73, God's a code 73. It's crazy, just crazy 73. Stone 73, United 73, really 73. Goodbye 73.
Villain.
Yeah, and then there's thank you for that. And then there are another.
Patience 73, thanks 73. Let's see, what else is there? Sound 73, but don't worry, we're going to Paradise 73, Kingdom 73, Union 73. And that's about it for me.
No, it's not a sound check. We have
Some drilling
some
going
drilling going on right next to our studio here. They're trying to fix the column that was wrecked in the earthquake. So that's what's happening today. We didn't think they would be drilling, but that's okay. So as far as Arnold Schwarzenegger, there are a lot of comms that he is not a bad guy. Of course, you know, you don't have to believe anything we say. We're going to find out soon enough anyway. But to me, it's like, there's no way that they would have let someone like that into their family, right into their family, into the Kennedy family. I can't even imagine. I know in The Art of War, you know, bring your enemies closer, but wow, can't imagine.
Yeah, well, and there are just so many elements to this, all of this that's playing out.
Oh.
We don't know who's like operating as you know, has to play a role as if they're do some like bad things just so they're accepted into that sphere, so that he could be elected as governor, so that he could collect information or whatever else he needed to do. So we really don't
Under the
know.
guise of having a sexual issue, I mean, everybody knew that he had it with sexuality was in overdrive.
Right. Yeah, so we don't know all of the details and what people have been playing and who's what. So we can only speculate.
Because there's deep infiltrators on both sides. So they had to infiltrate the good guys into the bad to figure out what was going on and how they could best flip the system, flip the switch. So again, you know, they say, like Q was saying, you know, be careful who you fall in love with, or just be careful who you choose as who's on the right side, because you don't know. But they will bring that all out. And like I said before, we're just we don't know on some of the John Galting that we're hoping, but some of the things that we've discovered, you know, lead us to believe that it could be. Some of them are now. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you bring up a great point, because like being under disguise is so important, because the Q team has used this over and over again, especially for like Antifa, BLM. And I think 48 was talking about like the first plane that never hit in 9/11 or something, that the white hats are actively stopping the ones that are going too far, like the events that are going too far. So it's necessary to have these compromised looking individuals that aren't really compromised, that are behind enemy lines. And isn't like Terminator, that's like the whole concept, right? Like he's like a machine and he's supposedly like this bad guy, but he has a heart for a girl for some reason. And he's like saved, like, I don't know, he's protecting her. It's just very weird. It seems kind of similar to what the whole story is of him.
Yeah, and again, you know, like what Colleen is saying is that for a lot of the cases, we don't have any definitive. There are no outside comms. There are no outside comms, and it has to be that way. You don't want it to be any other way. You don't want the Q team having some kind of you know, close relationship with who's that? Forgetting that British guy with the aliens. He's got alien kids and Simon Parks and stuff. Even Jesus, if honestly, if the Q team has any kind of relationship with Simon Parks, we're all in fucking trouble. We're all in massive trouble if that's the case. So you just gotta stop, and you just need to realize that there are a lot of people that are maybe passionate about this, maybe very excited, and they want to talk about this in the worst possible way. And then, you know, you gain a little fame, gain a little notoriety, and you know, suddenly you begin to take yourself seriously. Maybe you start to make yourself believe that some of this stuff is true or whatever, but it isn't. There are no outside comps. So we don't know. However, Colleen and I, we don't mention any names to you unless the boxes are being checked powerfully. We're looking for signs, then we're looking for connections, and we're looking for confirmations, and we see them all the time. So when again you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you look at the fact that sort of an optics test is that his father apparently, I've not been able to confirm this 100%. But we're told that his father was an officer of Hitler's and was one of the brown shirts. And so therefore, of course, Schwarzenegger is a bad guy. And a lot of people use that as absolute confirmation that Hitler's a bad guy. I would use that as absolute confirmation that clearly he's a good guy. Clearly he's gone underground, because this is very personal to Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is personal on so many levels, including what was done to the German people, which to this point, I mean, there are still people that are just completely out to effing lunch on all of this. You got it wrong. World War II is not what you've been told. I'm not wrong about any of this. I'm telling you the absolute truth. And again, you look at whom else within the truth community looks at this stuff with me and says, "No, Charlie, you know, you're absolutely right about it." Santos Bonacci is 100% knows the truth about Adolf Hitler in Germany and the real story about the Holocaust and who the Holocaust happened to, which were the Germans. And take a look at Josh X. Same thing with Josh. Josh is all in with Adolf Hitler in Germany being the good guys in World War II, and that everybody ganged up on them because we were told to by the effing cabal, and we took out the wrong people, which is what General Patton said. And then General Patton was almost killed 2 days later, and then within a week he was dead, or was he dead? But now who are we finding out Donald Trump is connected to? General George Patton. What was General Patton saying about World War II? It's not what we've been told. We fought the wrong people. We should have been fighting with the Germans to take out the scum of the earth, which was communist Russia, which was protecting the Khazarian mafia, the Khazarian Jews. How do you not get any of this? Hitler's Germany was devoutly good. It is the most profound. That's why the video that I did, the 2-hour video, and so you have Dennis Wise, and he has his 6-hour, The Greatest Story Never Told. Brilliant. It's an absolutely must watch. Then there's Europa. Europa is perhaps the best of all of them. It's in 9 hours, and it is absolutely genius. And then there's Hellstorm, which you have to see. It's very painful to watch, but you absolutely have to see. But you cannot miss
the propaganda that we've all seen, that the fake Jews have instilled and programmed into our minds. That's all they program us with, is that the Jews have been persecuted. Hitler's a bad guy. He's a monster. And everybody, even the Anons, are all using Hitler as an example of a very bad man. We've been programmed. Now, when you do this research, like Charlie's saying, and you listen to these facts or all of these history events that they have documented and videoed and all of this stuff, it's amazing. Your perspective suddenly becomes way bigger, and you're just like, oh my God, we've been programmed. Of course we have MK Ultra. Now that's what I wanted to talk to you about right now, because everybody in the chat is talking about Simon Parks, and no, but just listen. There are so many people that have been MK Ultra'd and they believe what they say. We do. We've all believed what we said. We believed that the earth was round. So we told our children that the earth was round. We were MK Ultra'd. These people who are out there and they may have good hearts and they may be good people, but they're MK Ultra'd. If you think you have sex every month with an alien and you have an alien child, maybe he's been MK Ultra'd, but that doesn't make the information he says truthful, because he's been programmed. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. So you can like him on a soulful level, but it doesn't mean the information that he's saying is truthful. But he believes it. He probably believes this. There are so many people that are bought into the alien agenda and they believe what they're saying because they absolutely saw it, because they've been MK Ultra'd. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's important to put that in perspective.
Yeah, that's precisely why they call it the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because it's duality, right? People are so stuck up on their fear porn, their instant pleasure. They're watching people like Charlie Ward. Why? Because MK Ultra is kicking your ass. And that's why when Charlie Freak talks about Germany and the Aryans and what actually happened and why they were taking down these bankers that want to enslave your ass, you're on their side defending them and wanting your slavery to continue. Please keep going.
Yeah. So once again,
so we've all been MK Ultra. Don't you get it? Don't you guys get this? That's why we're in this position right where we're at. We're all of us think we're awake. And we're not completely awake yet, because there are still programs running inside of us that are telling us Hitler's not a good guy, and all of these other things that are twisting us up. And we're not able to absorb the truth because of these programs. That's the problem. So you're not just cleaning up your body with food, but your whole programming has to be switched off, and you have to start absorbing the truth. But you can't do that. You can't serve two
masters. Yeah, you can't.
You can't serve two masters at the same time.
Well, and just think about, most of us kind of came into this realization that we were being deceived at this scale in 2020. I mean, some of us were there before then, but it really took the COVID mess to wake us up out of our stupor. So just remember how you were prior to that. Whenever you started to uncover the truth, remember how you were prior to that, when someone told you 9/11 was an inside job, or anything of that nature, anything that went against your programming or what you wanted to believe. We get so stuck in this mindset that anything that challenges our beliefs, we fight it tooth and nail. That's cognitive dissonance. That's where we get stuck in. And so, the more that we can recognize when we start to dig our heels in, when something doesn't align with what we believe or how we have operated in the past, if you can recognize when you do that, you start to open up. And when you open up yourself to the truth, and you open yourself up to God. And that's the whole idea with this becoming the alkaline man and doing this process, doing the work like we say, because you start to open up. You start to open up to what the truth, you start to allow the truth in, and you pull the curtain back, and you realize how much has been a lie. And that includes people within the truth community. We get so far, we realize that everything's a lie, and then we start latching on to other idols. We start latching on to other people. We start latching on to, and they're designed to be there to grab hold of you and tell you these lies. So remember that there's so many layers to this deception that we all have to work through. And if you're just gonna dig your heels in and get angry whenever someone challenges that, it means you have a lot of work to do. So just want to throw that out there, just to echo what Colleen's saying, because it's that we pay attention to this. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that brings up such a great point, because what's even more dangerous than someone who doesn't even follow the truth in the get-go is someone who says, I am a truther, yet believes in all these lies. Like what do you call it? Arrogance coupled with, whatever. It's just the worst combo. Yeah.
It's a journey, right? It's a journey. When you're changing your food, your whole lifestyle. It's a journey, and we are transitioning, and it happens the same with information that we have to deprogram, and to just boot that shit right out of your mind. And it doesn't happen in a day for some people, and it does for some others, but it is a constant process, and we have to have an open mind, but not so open that, you know, you believe everything that comes around. You have to have discernment, and that's really important. But yes, we are being lied to by people, by so many snakes, but you have to be able to just go straight to God. And that's why we're doing all of this work, just to clean up our systems, our entire, everything around us. And like Charlie said before, we had to throw everything out. It was a completely clean slate. We couldn't trust anything we knew.
Once again, this is not for naught that Colleen is saying this, and this isn't just a cute little expression. We threw everything out. So where Colleen and I get frustrated at the bulk, the vast network of the truth community, is they're all fucking lazy, and they're all taking the bulk of their truth as hand-me-downs from somewhere. And I would suggest that most of this comes from Coast to Coast radio, AM,
Who's owned by?
which was started by the cabal and eventually owned by the Bush family. But this was
We're going to trust that network? I don't think so.
This is the first network of truth or alternative information was Coast to Coast radio. And again, started by the Rockefellers, eventually owned by the Bush family itself, Coast to Coast Radio. And what did Coast to Coast Radio specialize on more than anything else? Aliens. It's all aliens. And remember, every time you have somebody who pushes the alien agenda, even if they're the spiritual ones who are saying, no, we're not talking about always these scare you with the lizard people. No, we're talking about the blue chicken people, or we're talking about the Palladians. We're talking about the good ones. Doesn't matter. What they're pushing on you is the same thing, which is that you are a worthless sinner. And you see, that is the bread and butter of organized religion. That is the bread and butter of organized society. They own you when you're just a worthless piece of shit, and somebody else is going to save you. So this is all about Donald Trump. Make Donald Trump the hero. It's all about John F. Kennedy Jr. Make John F. Kennedy Jr. the hero. This is all about the Palladians, and make the Palladians, your hero. It's all about, General Patton, and Patton's going to come back and shove an Uzi down the throats of all of these bad people, and he'll do it. He'll be our savior. You have to become your own savior. We have to fucking wake up, take back our power, realize that we're all children of God. Now, look, when I teach, this is why it's so important to teach the truth about Jesus Christ instead of the Catholic Church lie. That's Jesus Christ. The Catholic Church lie, which is the spiritual community lie about Jesus, that Jesus is a really soft, weak, passive, half masculine, half feminine kind of character. And the big thing about Jesus, so great, is that Jesus just loved everyone. Everybody had their own truth. Jesus was totally okay with everybody having their own truth. Some people a little bit more of this, some people a little bit more of that. But Jesus was he was love. He was light, and he was love. And Jesus loved everybody. What fucking book are you reading? Because it sure shit isn't the Bible. He was in your face if you told a lie. Jesus existed for one thing and one thing only, which was to teach the truth. And more than that, he was Q. So Jesus is the original Q because he was action. He's the bridge between two worlds. He's not just the teacher, he was the doer. He's the one that made this bridge to heaven. And now we have to get there. But what does the Catholic Church do to diffuse the miracle that is Jesus Christ? They say he is actually God. He's not even Jesus. Or there is no God, and it's just Jesus who was portraying the role of God. And then it's always just, monoism. It's always just oneism with them. And they squeeze either, depending on how you look at it, they squeeze either Jesus or God out of the equation completely. There's just one. And that what we are, God only knows, but it isn't worth much. And that what we're supposed to do, you get one chance in your life. Really? You get one chance in your life. And that when you die, depending on not if you were good or bad, no, that doesn't have any bearing at all. No, it's just what you believed in. So if you were a complete fuck up that spent your entire life cheating your own family for fake monopoly money, you're going to heaven because you signed a card with the Catholic Church and you paid 10% of your wealth to the church and you're going to heaven. Sorry, what did Jesus teach? Stop sinning. Go forth and sin no more. Do you not know that you will do greater things than I? And on that day, you will go directly to the Father. You will create that conduit to the Father. He's telling you, and remember, this is why the chrism oil is so important. From the age of 12 onward, then all of us, not just Jesus, not just the Jesus bloodline, all of us from the age of 12 onwards are secreted the psychophysical seed in the solar plexus and the milk and the honey to the pineal and the pituitary gland from the claustrum 13 times a year. 13 times a year from the age of 12 onwards, you were gifted the psychophysical seed, baby Jesus, and then Joseph and Mary, the fertilizer that fertilizes Jesus to life, and then Jesus travels up your spine for 33 years or vertebrae. So what? So that you can just do nothing and drink beer the rest of your life and rip people off in business deals because Jesus is going to do it all for you? Why would God create it that way unless it was about you? It's always, what did Jesus teach? You. You have to
will
get
do
off
greater
your ass.
things.
You will do greater things than I. If you get off your ass and do something about
Do the work,
this.
and there's never going to be a problem.
Everybody who pushes the alien agenda is pushing the exact same bullshit, which is that you are a worthless sinner. You're a fuck up. We're a bunch of fuck ups. We can't save ourselves. We're hopeless and useless, and that there's chicken people that are going to come and save you, or there's Palladians that are going to come and save you. I don't want their help. You shouldn't want their help either, because if it comes to that, what have we earned? Nothing. Why is baseball God's game? Why is it our game for God? Why is baseball so freaking hard? Why is it that you're a Hall of Famer if you fail 7 out of 10 times at the plate? If you hit 300 for your career, you're a guaranteed surefire Hall of Famer. And you failed 7 out of 10 times. What does Kevin Costner say when he's asked about baseball? It's hard, because if it wasn't, then anybody could do it. Life is hard because you're supposed to earn this. Don't you get it? You are special beyond description. And this is the forging of the fire that transmutates you from a child, weak, helpless, into the light of the world. You are the light of the world. And if you don't shine your light for others to see, then nobody's going to do it.
And all the cabal was trying to do was just squelch your light. And they only had to implant ideas into our brain that we weren't magic, that we weren't love. We aren't God's children. We're amazing.
We're absolutely amazing. We absolutely are. And just really quickly, a couple of things. I'm going to pass it back over to the boys. Remember that I just had to go outside for a sec. But with regard to Arnold Schwarzenegger, if his father is part of the brown shirts, that's a really good thing. And that powerfully shows you that Schwarzenegger is willing to take on the greatest risk, the greatest role, to go undercover, to be portrayed as an absolute monster to help take down. And he's a strong man, both of body and of mind. You know that if you spend any amount of time looking at any of Schwarzenegger's characters, they're all kind. They're all unfailingly kind. That's why he can do all those shows with children, because he loves children. He doesn't eat them. He loves children. It's so easy to see. And that he is very strong of mind, very, very strong of body, but he's very, very strong of mind. And this is somebody who just said from the beginning, I want in to take these monsters down. There's no way in the world the Kennedy families would allow a monster to marry Maria Shriver. There's no way. But Maria Shriver was really great friends with Oprah. So Maria Shriver obviously is really, really bad. No. Major, powerful couple, Hollywood couple, big friends with all Hollywood people. Maria Shriver got into journalism. She was great at what she did. It brought her into the news world. So she was behind the scenes within the news world. And then her and Arnold had connections. Everybody wanted to be their friend because, my God, it's Schwarzenegger and a Kennedy, and the most beautiful Kennedy. So everybody wanted to be their friend. They're playing roles. And this is all about family. This is all about a small group. This is all about the Jesus strand. It's all about people you can trust. And so when you do the work, when you have, been part of this family, Justin came to us. Justin's never left. Justin's never taught anything but the truth. I've never, ever heard Justin go off about this other thing or that. He's just stayed and he's continued. And we know it because we see it firsthand. Eugene lives with Justin. We see it firsthand. He's doing all of the work as well. When you do this stuff, when you teach only the truth, you're becoming the light of the world. When you do the work to become alkaline of the body and the mind, then you're becoming the light of the work, and God is smiling upon you, because there's so few people that are doing this stuff. This is serious stuff. And this is a real hero. These are real heroes. Eugene and Colleen and these are real heroes because they're doing the work. And Justin doesn't get anything for it. Colleen's not getting anything really because Colleen just gets more work. There's more people to drop off animals to us, and there's more and more work. And then you guys are wanting more and more from us, and that's understandably so as we get closer and closer and closer. But it's just more and more work. And we're doing all of it for free because that's the only way. You can't charge money for truth, because that's fucking sick. That's how we got into this problem in the first place. So you can't do any of this stuff.
That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. Holding back information because somebody can't pay it. Or holding back some sort of healing technique because they don't have the money to pay. It's like bullshit. Moving forward, we can no longer have that mentality. Absolutely not. So people might praise capitalism, but I don't. And yes, we need resources, but let's find a better way. Let's find a better method.
And a purely goodly capitalist system would be payment in any form. So it wouldn't have to be some kind of monetary system. It wouldn't have to be. So you could pay in any form, and then that's exchange, and then that's a very beautiful thing.
But when you have free electricity and you have people helping each other and all sorts of things, like, you don't need the same resources that we do now, because it's going to be a completely different reality. Go ahead, Justin.
Well, that's where we shift from being debtors to being creditors. When we operate in this lack-based system where everyone has to be a debtor, where we have to charge people for things and say you have to pay this amount and it has to be money, and instead we switch to the abundance-based reality where everyone is a creditor. They recognize they're a creditor. They recognize they have abundance and they can't provide. It doesn't have to be in the form of money, but you pay for, you honor the energetic exchanges that are done, and you do make those exchanges at an equal and fair amount. And that's determined by the individuals within that exchange. It's not mandated by any government or any agency or corporation or anything like that. It's So we had to start shifting in this mindset, and that's what the four of us are doing here. Is we're shifting that mindset. We recognize that this is a service. This is important to do. We feel this call to serve mankind in this sort of way. But I'm never going to charge for any of this, because that would be trying to charge for God. It would be trying to charge for the truth, which is wrong. And so I want to shift towards that creditor mentality, where I am a creditor. I am providing what I have in abundance, which is just this ability to speak and be and operate in this sort of way. So I'm operating as a creditor, and I invite any and each of you to operate as that creditor in any sort of way. And I know it's difficult in where we are right now, and that is going to shift with things like free energy, where we're not going to be so bogged down and limited. It has been artificially created in this sort of limited system where it's very difficult to break free of that. But the more ways that you can do that, the more ways that you can operate as a creditor in whatever capacity, where you are honoring that energetic exchange with those that you interact with, it's going to help create that reality that we want to move to that much faster. So keep that in mind each and every time you do enter into an exchange with another being. Operate as that creditor. Recognize that you are a child of God, and you have abundance within you. You have abundance at all times. God always provides. Consider the birds. Like they don't worry about harvest and toiling and all this sort of thing. God always provides. So when we operate from that space, we're always cared for. We're always provided for. But if you operate from that lack and that fear-based mentality, like there's not enough, there's not going to be enough to go around, well, that's kind of a sign to God that you need a little bit more lessons in that field. You need a little bit more reminders that you need to let go of this desire, this fear to hold on to everything. So yeah, just wanted to kind of reiterate that, and that comes from Matthew chapter 6. And if you haven't read Matthew chapter 6 recently, read it again. It's arguably the greatest chapter in the Bible. There is so much packed into that chapter, and it's beautiful. So do that for sure.
Okay, thank you for that, Justin. Thank you, Eugene. Thank you, Colleen. I love Colleen. Colleen's like that with me all the time, where she's just showing her passion nonstop. Colleen is very, very passionate. She is the mother. She's like the sacred mother. Hello, Shani and Dante. Hello, beautifuls. Thank you, Eugenio. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump to two lists here. I'm going to read this out, and then from this, we're going to talk about some of the names here, and again, why this is so important. And then you can ask questions. You can bring up specific names if you want, specific reasoning why or whatever. So we're going to make this a lot more interactive from here on. So what I'm going to do is first talk about this John Galted list. So once again, what does it mean to be John Galted? It means that these are people that were saying, I don't want to stay and do this within society anymore. I want to get behind the scenes. I want to be, if there is something that is working behind the scenes to take down the cabal, I want in. I want in, and I want to devote my existence to be able to unfold the plan that I have, the genius or the intellect that I have, and I want to have it see the light of day, and I want this to benefit all of mankind. So this is what this John Galting process is. Now, when you look at the movie, and this is clearly what Justin, Colleen, and I were sharing with you. When you look at Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Slayer, the movie, this is clearly a white hat production. And when you look at the closing scene, what the whole movie is comms, just nonstop comms, powerfully telling you the whole truth about silver, the whole truth about what vampires really are. They are real. And obviously telling you about Abraham Lincoln, which again, I was saying to Justin and Colleen, I didn't know enough about Lincoln, and it bothered me. And that on both sides, it appeared that there's so much obfuscation to Lincoln that I wanted to know more. I prayed on this, and then all the things that I needed to find, I found. And then it's just led to this most amazing story about Abraham Lincoln. But when you look at the closing scenes of Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Slayer, Hunter, what you see is that when Lincoln is going to the theater, And he has a final conversation with his friend who forcibly was turned into a vampire, but a good man. He's warning Lincoln about that this will never stop, and that he's now simply made himself as public enemy number one to them, and that they must remove him, and that Lincoln, tip of the cap, was aware of this. And then we see from the window of the Oval Office, we see Lincoln enter into his little hansom cab to be able to go to the theater. And so when he gets in, what you see is that the hansom cab is basically on the squiggle of a Q, and that the road out of the White House is what appears to be a Q, and that he's on his way to the theater, and which is a massive tip of the cap that Abraham Lincoln was John Galted. So there is, and remember, why would this be? Because if Abraham Lincoln is part of the Druze, if he is part of this Order of the Blue Rose, if his bloodline was carried forward out of the Holy Land by Mary Magdalene, then whom else are we going to John Galt than
remember,
his beautiful bloodline?
Remember, the vampires have been here since Cain and Abel. They've been here a very long time. So they didn't just show up, in 1960 or something. So the good guys and the bad guys have always been very active and very distinct.
And isn't it interesting how it's always the people that are against the bankers that, the propaganda is put on? Like JFK, Trump, Adolf Hitler, or Abraham Lincoln. They were all trying to take down this central structure. And let me read out some 110s from you. Programmed, 110. Adolf Hitler, 110. Wonderland, 110. 911, 110. Tradition, 110. Locked in hell, 110. COVID vaccine, 110. Hell is a bad place, 110. So what must come from this? Pole shift, 110. Vibration, 110. Meditation, 110. Tesseract, 110. The Christ, 110. Punisher, 110. Christmas, 110. Laughing hard, 110. Starship, 110. And God of the Bible, 110. Lord is coming, Lord coming, but 110. Yeah, keep going.
Thank you, Eugene. That was beautiful. And exactly right. And notice how Eugene starts out with what could pretend to be negative, and then finishes off powerfully what is going to happen. And that's what negative 48 has been doing. If you notice, all of his gematria is all kind of layered, and it's telling you a story, and it's telling you of the calms that are going to be happening. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and make no mistake about it. Remember, in gematria, we don't count the zeros. So 110 is 11. So meditation is 110. Adolf Hitler is 110. 11. So these are people like Colleen and I dedicated our lives to put ourselves constantly between the 11. So we exist here in between the 11. That's the whole point of your life, is to create the temple within. We were having a wonderful conversation last night about how meditation is not the be all and end all. The meditation is the key. But once you've placed the key into the portal, which is the pineal, then once you've opened that door, the door to the right in the third room of Solomon's temple, third ventricle of the brain, the door to the right, the pineal gland, then you don't need to continue to meditate. You create the condition of what meditation is, which is stillness and silence. You create the condition of stillness and silence within you. This is where cannabis, which in the Bible is referred to as cannabosum, sweet cannabosum is cannabis. And of course, it is a holy sacrament. And it is the holy sacrament of incense, which gives you inner sense, because the sweetness of cannabosum, or the burning of cannabis as incense, it helps to remind you of why you're here, who you are, what you're supposed to be doing, which is to stay here. You stay in here. When somebody comes to visit you, You see them, you greet them from here. You don't go out there and chew the fat or get 3 sheets to the wind. You go out and you're going to suffer. You're going to know pain and you're going to know suffering, because that's the dualistic reality of the out there world. We must go within ourselves. We must stay within ourselves. And this is how you control the left brain. So we're not getting rid of the left brain. The left brain plays a very valuable role. Facts, figures, and logic plays a role, but just a role. It's just a piece to the puzzle. When you let it rule you, you've destroyed the game, because the game is the making of the puzzle. The puzzle is all about these pieces, of which the left brain is just one little part of. So it's about doing the work. It's about staying inside the temple, the 11, 110. Gematria, we don't count the zeros. So as we go through this, write some of these names down. You can refer back to it, obviously, in this. But when everything began to heat up, this clearly was in and around the event of the century, which was the Kennedy assassination. So make no mistake about it. They were going to kill JFK. They had to. And they had already figured out that JFK was of this bloodline that they've sworn to destroy. So anyone from Jeheshua and Mary Magdalene has to die in their eyes. And again, you see, I don't want to get into this bit of a segue, but you see how they get it wrong, that it has to be the blood and nothing else. The blood is very, very important, but it's simply showing us, like Aragorn in The Lord of the Rings, the Númenóreans, that this is a bloodline that kept alive, not just the teaching, but the doing of the work.
Because remember, like water, blood is information. And it's the information that is inside, encoded into us, right? So you can imagine how the evil has their encoding of evilness inside of them.
Yeah.
It's the same with the righteous. So when they talk about a bloodline, it isn't that, I mean, these people have done the work. So they were the regenerated man.
Yes.
So they've been the regenerated man. They have that information coursing through their entire system. But we can get there too. We will just have to remember.
But
It's
what's the best way?
inside of us.
Yeah, what's the best way to get there? Well, if Jesus could teach, if Jesus could teach you himself, then that would be the best case scenario. So you see, Jeheshua and Mary Magdalene are very real, and they did the work. They existed, and Jeheshua was torn to bits because you can't allow this to occur. And what Mel Gibson does such an incredible job in The Passion of the Christ is showing you that the elders of the Church of Zion in Jerusalem, this Hebrew faith or religion, the elders of the church in Jerusalem are the same people that are running things today. It's the Catholic Church. They constantly remorph themselves into evil, and whatever form evil needs to do. Just like the righteous ones constantly are transmutating themselves into the Freemasons because now we're not wearing robes anymore. So now it's suits and ties. And so everything begins to shift and it begins to change. So this is what you're saying. And it is, as Colleen said, it is a battle between good and evil, and it's from the beginning. But remember, it's about doing the work. The blood of this line is so important because they've kept doing the work alive. They've kept the traditions alive. So it's not just that they're teachers, they're doers. That's Q. That's why this group, this Jesus strand is at the heart of the Q team. It has to be. They're the Q. Mm-hmm. They're Q. Q is action, is the bridge between two worlds. Q is a bridge. And that means that these are the people that can build the bridge. They're the Hank Reardons and the Dagny Taggarts of the world.
Not the parasites that are just there
right.
to merely suck the essence out of everything good because they can't create their own anything. We've met people like that, right? You know them. They're all around. They've forgotten their magic, and they think that they need to get life from someone who's living because they're dying.
Yeah. So when we talk about a bloodline, it's not an
And because
Sorry, go ahead.
Go, Justin.
So it's not an exclusive thing that's restrictive from anyone doing this. It's not an elitist kind of, these are the only ones that are doing it and the only ones who have this capability. No, these are the ones who are showing us the way that we're all supposed to strive for. And so what ends up happening when you have a soul that's so, because we know that death is not the end. Death is just a part of this cycle. It doesn't have to be if we don't want it to, but it has been a part of this cycle. So at this point, those who are more inclined to this path are more likely to incarnate into this blood, this sacred blood, where the righteous path has been chosen wholeheartedly. And that's why it must be preserved, because this is the best version of this way that we're all striving to be. We're all striving to be Jesus Christ. We're all striving to be Mary Magdalene. And this bloodline is just the sort of the highest point in reaching on this path and striving on this way. So they are the teachers, but they are also the doers, because they demonstrate it with every facet of who they are. So just wanted to make that clear, because it's not a restrictive kind of like these guys are better than us, so we just have to play our part, and we can never hope to ascertain to this level. It's like, no, these are the guides, the examples showing us exactly what we need to do, just as Jesus did, just as Jesus said, you will do greater things than I. We are to strive to do greater things than this, because once we start building on this idea, once we start recognizing that we are children of God and this is the path we are to follow, then it will only continue to improve. We'll just keep going up and up and up and up and up and up. And that's the goal. That's what we're here to do. And the quicker we realize that, the better and higher we can fly. So yeah, just wanted to clarify that, because that's one aspect of the Jesus strand that I want to make sure gets emphasized within that group. They're doing a great job at portraying what the Jesus strand is, the history behind it, how it's been persecuted and all of that. But I want to make that very clear that it's not a separation. There is not separation within how that's being taught or what actually happened. It's an inclusivity that we all need to strive for. We all need to ascertain to try and get into to recognize that we have the Jesus strand within us. We just have to remember that and get back to it. So yeah, just wanted to clarify that part.
Beautiful. Very important as well. Eugene, did you want to just jump in here for a second? I'm going to read the list.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, this is the whole idea of being a pureblood, not necessarily just the fact that there's an Abel bloodline, but I mean, why in the Bible is there always references to lamb's blood? It's the purity, and that's why Cain had to drink the pure blood of Abel, because his blood was disgustingly dirty. It had all the retained memories of nastiness. That's why, Colleen was talking about water and such. And yeah, I think that's all I was trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the Bible gives it away, which is always the wearing of this perfect lamb's blood. The perfect lamb's blood is the Christed one. And that's what you have to do. But you don't have to let a lamb to do this. It means you do the work. You do the work. The thing is, the death passes you over. The reaper passes you over when you wear the blood of the perfect lamb upon your brow. You do that, your brow is the sphenoid bone where everything above is heaven upon earth. So if it's activated, if you're the light of the world, if you've become the lighthouse, if you've illuminated,
if you're
activated, then death passes you over. That's wearing the blood of the perfect lamb. You have to stop reading the Bible as a literal history book. It isn't. There are aspects to it that clearly are, but that's only because it's an allegory. It's the story of stories. And people have read this and they've said, oh my gosh, I want to do this. I want to dedicate my life to do this work. I want to bring, that's the fastest, best, most powerful way to bring Jesus back to us is by people who dedicate their lives to living their life as Jesus Christ. But you have to do the work. You have to do the work. And
Charlie, real quick, isn't it like Real quick, isn't that like Santa Claus? Could you go into that? That's why I brought up your shirt.
Yeah, and again, Santa Claus, that's why the story of Santa Claus is the way that it is. So Santa Claus and his helpers, his little helpers, which is your endocrine system, which are, so the elves who are Santa's little helpers, these are all the sacred secretions of the endocrine system. Okay, and they work 24/7, 365. They work all year round to be able to create Christmas. And the idea is that Christmas comes to you every single day, not just one time a year, or it comes to you 13 times a year through the release of the chrism oil. But this is why you have the allegories of, but Santa's always watching, and Santa knows who's naughty and who's nice. So this is only for the nice children and not the naughty children. And that again is just an allegory for Christ-like or Satan-like. It's an allegory for alkaline or acidic. And that's just the way that it is. The gifts of the claustrum inside of you don't work in an acidic body. They don't. They don't. Not once, not a little bit, not here and there. They don't work. The claustrum shuts off for you. Just becomes another fireman at ground zero at 9/11. It's just a first responder putting out fires. That's all your claustrum becomes if you're acidic. If you do the work to be a frugivore, if you do the work to be alkaline of the body and the mind, if you're breathing properly in and you're consuming that which is virtuous and righteous, and you're only taking thought of God, then you receive the gifts of the three wise men who are the Magi from the Magi tribe in the East. And they give you this wisdom in the form of melatonin, serotonin, and dopamine. And it just on the show we did the other night, the magic of the numerology, the gematria of melatonin, serotonin, and dopamine. Dopamine 77, Christ 77, Messiah 77. I mean, it's so simple if you do the work, and you will do greater things than Jesus if you do the work. And that's why the Jesus strand is Q. That's how you know, well, and it proves itself. Don't take my word for it. It proves itself. Who stood up and was counted for? General Patton. General Patton stood up and risked everything by doing what he did, and speaking the truth no matter what. John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, the Kennedy family, stood up and attempted to put down the worst evil that the world has ever known. Go back. Who are they all connected to? Henry Ford. Who are they connected to? Adolf Hitler, Joseph Kennedy. And that connects you all the way back to Abraham Lincoln. And you just look at all of these names. Why are they the ones that stood up against this vile, disgusting enemy? Why were they willing to put their own lives on the line to take down this Khazarian mafia? One head of the Hydra, which is in Venice, which came from Phoenicia, which are the Canaanites, because this is good versus evil, and they're the good ones. And you can be a good one too. You just have to align yourself to this. So again,
because it's all about frequency, right? So we're all vibrating at a certain frequency. When you're heavy and you're dense and you're low vibration, it has a manifestation. It's a spelling. So what we want the lightness, we want the higher frequency, we want that beautiful essence of God, that love to just be manifesting itself, and then it affects everything around us. So it's all about frequency. It's all about vibration.
Yeah, which is a choice. It's always a choice between casting thy net to the right and falling into the pits of hell upon the left. So it's always your choice. So what I'm going to do in this moment, Colleen's working on some great stuff here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a couple of lists. So the first one, as we talked about, everything kick-started with regard to the event of the century, which is the Kennedy presidency, and this is 11/22/33, and that's why they do what they do when they do it, because they're slave to the numbers. But these are God's numbers, and symbology will always be their downfall, because the righteous children of the bloodline of Abel, we are the masters of numerology, and they're just the mockers of gematria. They're the mockers of numerology and symbology. We are the children. We are the byproduct of this language of God. They're not. So it'll always be their downfall, because we'll always see their footprint. No matter where they go, they'll always reveal themselves. They'll reveal themselves again and again and again. And that's why they're always using the same date. Look at through history, 10/22, 11/22, 11/23. Look at these dates, and you'll see that they repeat them, because they're slaves to this number system, because they have no creativity. They're the left brain. So what we're talking about here, and this would be a list of people that Colleen and I, and perhaps Justin and Eugene as well, would agree that have been John Galted. So we're talking about John F. Kennedy. So therefore, Jackie Kennedy. So therefore, what about John Kennedy's actual Christ line, Jesus strand brother, Joseph Kennedy Jr., who had that mysterious mission at the end of World War II, and his plane blew up in the middle of the air and he was lost. And then also at the very end of World War II was the eldest daughter of the Kennedy family, which was Kit Kennedy. And she had married a British duke, I believe, British royalty, and they fell in love with one another, and they flew a small plane, and they were leaving England for France, and apparently that plane crashed as well. And so the two eldest Kennedy children both died mysteriously at the end of World War II. So did they? Did they? And if JFK was saved, there's no way in the world that they allowed RFK to be taken out. Robert Kennedy may or may not have been the true bloodline brother of JFK, but they were brothers. Make no mistake about it. They were soul brothers. And if JFK was John Galted, then RFK was John Galted. And it's interesting because nobody wants to talk about RFK, guys. Nobody's talking about Robert Francis Kennedy, and Robert Francis Kennedy was the equal of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Robert Francis Kennedy was an angel, and he was tough as nails. He's so Christ-like was Robert Francis Kennedy, and a great man. I absolutely grew up loving those two brothers. So you have to take a hard look at this, and as I said, therefore you have to take a hard look at Abraham Lincoln. So did Ted Kennedy, was Chappaquiddick to keep Ted out of running for the presidency, and therefore to keep plan or a plot to kill him, to take that away? And then eventually, did Ted Kennedy die, or was Ted Kennedy John Galted as well? What about Joseph Kennedy himself? We don't know. And certainly, we're hearing that Arabella, the firstborn of JFK and Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy, is alive, and that Patrick Bouvier is alive, and that Fatima is alive. And of course, we know that Carolyn is alive, and you should know that John F. Kennedy Jr. is absolutely alive as well. So then they're all John Galted once again, so that they can be behind the scenes to be able to do what is necessary to be done. So did Buddy Holly and everybody who was on that plane that fateful night when
Bye, Miss American Pie.
when the music died, the day that music died,
I remember in Ayn Rand's novel, she talks about taking the motor from the world. When these people leave, it's like taking our hearts. It's amazing. It's amazing how it takes the motor of the world.
It is. You can't quantify.
Of the negative world.
Yes.
Or the evil world.
Yeah. It's like they had to have John Galted Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, because look what came after them. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Where was that strong, uncompromising voice of genius and brilliance in the Black community after that? I'm waiting. I mean, it had to come from Denzel Washington, an actor in Hollywood, and that ilk to be able to replace. So that's what Colleen is saying. If you allow these giant amongst men to be taken out, then you can't quantify what the effect of this is. This is the thing about Buddy Holly. When Buddy Holly wrote True Love Ways, you knew at that point that they felt they had to get rid of Buddy Holly because that song was too good. It was too enlightened. It was too special. It was too Christ-like to be allowed. That's 1959. So it's dangerous. It's dangerous. Buddy Holly is dangerous to the cabal. And remember, his level of musical sophistication, and Buddy Holly was doing all of this in the span of 2.5 years within a studio. So he's growing in leaps and bounds, which is what these righteous ones do. So it's dangerous to leave them in play. So did Buddy Holly die in that plane crash? The Little Bopper and everybody else who was on that plane, did they actually die? Did they die? Because if you allow them to take the Buddy Hollys out of this world, we fall hard. We fall far and we fall hard because this wisdom, this genius, and this magic doesn't awaken in just everyone. It's capable of doing so, but it doesn't do so in everyone. The work has to be done. So it's very dangerous to let these lights of the world be taken out. So we have to question that. And of course, Elvis Presley. And when I mentioned that Elvis is Pastor Bob Joyce, Justin, Colleen, and I, we don't know this 100% that Elvis absolutely is Pastor Bob Joyce, but the parallels are incredible. And then, this is what we get consistently is that, oh, Charlie, come on. I mean, take a look at Pastor Bob. He's what, maybe 56, 60, maybe 65. Elvis, if he were alive, would be 85. So it's like, come on, Charlie. It's like, you think you're still dealing in this reality. You think 85 is ancient. Wrong with you. 85 is a mere babe in the woods. Why do you all think that 85 is so old? Well, just look around. Yes, because you're looking around at people who do nothing but believe in lies. They eat lies. They drink lies. They live lies. Everything they do in their life is a lie, which is a betrayal of one's true self, true identity, and one's gift of freedom from God. So, of course, you're dying young. You're dying fast. Oh, only the good die young, because you're living a lie. So just you have to suspend. You have to suspend all of your suspicion and doubt all the time and negativity all the time. Pastor Bob Joyce can't be Elvis because Pastor Bob is like 60, 65, and Elvis is clearly, is supposed to be 85. Come on, shake your heads at what's been going on. Who's Elvis Presley related to? We've heard some incredible things. Don't know 100% whether that's true or not. But again, if it is, and these are people that are doing the work and they have access to the brilliant technology that we, the bloodline of Abel, can create because we're the right hemisphere of the brain, then anything is possible. Stop doubting. Stop being so negative all the time. Open your mind. It's the only way to rise. You cannot rise until you begin to open the cup of Christ within you, which is opening your mind. Be positive. Believe, which leads to hope, which leads to your knowingness. And that's everything is in knowingness. So let's go through, continue through the list here. So we talked about Malcolm X and MLK. And then, so, this leads us into something called the 27 Club. And there's a lot of celebrities. A lot of them were musicians, but it was celebrities. And these are people that mysteriously died at the age of 27, all the way back to 1892. Classical musician Alexander Levy and Louis Chabon, and the poet Rupert Brooke, and the blues artist Robert Johnson, and Jesse Velvet and Joe Henderson and Robin Roberts and Brian Jones from the Stones, Keith Hamm from Badfinger, even Benjamin Keough, which is Lisa Marie Presley's son, which would make him Elvis Presley's grandson, died at 27. And of course, most famously, Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison and Janis Joplin and Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse. So the list goes on, because again, kids who are living their dream don't just drop dead at 27 from heart failure, Jim Morrison. They don't. You believe it because if you hear a lie long enough, then you just eventually capitulate. You give in and you just start believing in the lies. Stop believing in the lies. So there's that 27 Club. Now, remember I did this post way back when. I think I did it originally on Facebook. And this is called the 50 Club. Now, these are 50 actors in Hollywood that died during the making of a movie, but they completed the movie, but they died at a point where they never had a chance to actually see the movie. So they died right near the very ending of the movie. And this is very, very suspicious. And I want you to listen. And I didn't put all 50 names here for you. You can find it yourself, just the 50 list in Hollywood. But listen to these names of these actors that just incredibly, died just at the ending of the making of these movies, but they never got a chance to see them. Bullshit. So let's take a look at some of these names. Heath Ledger, Richard Harris, John Ritter from Three's Company, Marlon Brando, Bernie Mac, Whitney Houston, River Phoenix, Raul Julia, Bruce Lee, Brandon Lee. Oh, they both died the same way. John Candy, Robin Williams, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Paul Walker, Anton Yelchin. Who's he related to? I wonder. Alan Rickman, Bill Paxton. I mean, Bill Paxton played in every major movie about taking down the cabal, like Predator, Die Hard, all those movies, all those movies. And we're going to get into a list of celebrities, by the way, that have gone out of their way to support Donald Trump. And you don't think this is a big deal? This is a massive deal because the mainstream media is owned by the cabal. So anyone who's an idiot enough to support Donald Trump and you're an actor, there must be something fucking wrong with you. Screw is loose in your head if you support Donald Trump and you're an actor in Hollywood. But Bruce Willis did. Bruce Willis showed up on the Jimmy Fallon show with a MAGA, Make America Great Again hat on, and Jimmy Fallon's laughing and poking fun at him and saying, this has to be a joke, right? And he's saying, no, it's not a joke. Donald Trump's the only candidate that takes any of this seriously. And he said, man, I thought you were a Hollywood liberal. He said, I care about kids. I care about jobs. I care about America. I care about, protecting families. So he said, if that makes me a conservative, then I guess I'm a conservative. But he said, I think that just is common sense kind of thing. It's Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis, who did the Die Hard, the Die Hard movies. Come on. It's not that big of a leap. And it doesn't mean that Bruce Willis was necessarily perfect the whole way through as well. We don't know. Once again, Tim Allen, who was connected to adrenochrome through Toy Story, and he was Buzz Lightyear to Tom Fuckfag Hanks, Woody. and preying upon children and A113, adrenochrome, you know, the license plate of the mom and all that stuff. But hey, listen, so we don't know what Tim Allen needed to do to become famous. But at a certain point, Tim Allen said, Donald Trump's my president. And the rest of this is just fucking bullshit. And we have to get back to protecting our children. We have to get back to doing the right thing. That's Tim Allen. Don't know if he was an angel all the way through. Don't know if he's doing this to try and make amends for what we don't know. Don't know. But that's Tim Allen. So also in this list, Carrie Fisher, Adam West, who is the original Batman, John Hurt. John Hurt is such an incredible actor. He's played virtually every shitty role, bad guy role there is, constantly drawing attention to how effing evil the cabal is. So that's a pretty selfless guy. And then John Hurt is part of this 50 Club as well. Stan Lee, DC Comics. I'm sorry, but in the last 20 years of Hollywood, it's like the only movies that had any truth in them came from fucking Stan Lee in DC Comics. Now, that's pretty pathetic. If that's the only source of truth you have is from comic books.
Marvel Comics.
Marvel Comics? Marvel Comics. Okay, thank you. Burt Reynolds, James Gandolfini, Natalie Wood, Rudolph Valentino, Carol Lombard, Marilyn Monroe. Wow, that's the 50 Club. Were they all off, or were they John Galted?
Just the bird outside sounds like a drill. There actually is a bird that imitates the drill sound. We've heard it to ourselves. The blackbird.
Okay, Eugene, go. Say something.
I don't know what to say.
Your scooter is fixed, right? And you're really happy with the service. Didn't you just perfect your vegetarian lasagna, right? Adding that broccoli.
Oh, the cabbage rolls. Okay, you know what? I'll put out some more gematria. Allah's Atum 108. The Lamb of God. Greatness 108. Our Decoder 108. Full Moon 108. Dragon Lord 108. And by the way, because 108 is 18, so it's the Kundalini, and that's radiation R. It's magnetism, whereas L is electricity. Right? Anyway, so yeah, Dragon Lord, because we got to ride the Kundalini. Anyway, Worship 108. Days of Noah 108. And isn't the flood coming right now? It's 81 is 108. And 81 is 108 backwards, right? Because with no zero and mirror, think mirror. Geometry is 108. Knock knock 108. What's up 108? It's over 108. Boom week ahead 108. Orange juice 108.
Okay, so just getting back to some of this list here. So then, once again, when you take a look at the Beatles being used, and virtually everyone is in agreement with the two Paul McCartneys, and that what we're looking at now is the fake Freemason clown Paul McCartney, which would be Billy Shear's William Shepherd. But what happened to the original Paul McCartney? Because I don't think the original Paul McCartney would have gone for any of this. And I don't think John Lennon went for any of this. And I don't think George Harrison went for any of this. So, and again, you just look at the circumstances around John Lennon's so-called assassination, lone nut assassin, 3 names, and, wealthy family, came out of nowhere, and blah, blah, blah. I think John Lennon was John Galted, and I think so was George Harrison. Just look at the circumstances. Again, if being attacked in his home and nearly stabbed to death by this psychopath who somehow got in to this fortress wasn't enough of a scream for people to John Galt, George Harrison, then I don't know what is. So, so then you would have to look at those names. And of course, Michael Jackson and Prince and Tom Petty. And, you know, we mentioned earlier as part of the 50 Club in Hollywood with Alan Rickman. Remember Bowie and Rickman going within a day of one another? And they're just most bizarre of circumstances. And neither of them looked like they were ready to die or anything, but they
don't forget that these are actors, and these people could be wearing makeup to make them look fatter, sicker. And so it's part of the story, right? So we don't know when we're watching those things that, oh, well, he had cancer and his hair fell out and he looked like shit. But was that really what happened? Bill Hicks? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So, but I still don't think it's Alex Jones.
Now, who were the two boys, the two rock stars? They were friends. One is from Lincoln Park.
Chris.
That's Chad Bennington, right?
Chester Bennington.
Chester Bennington, who clearly is the son of John Podesta, who clearly is the son of Michael Rockefeller. And
there's Avicii, the DJ guy.
Avicii, another.
He was also working on that same movie on the
same documentary.
Okay.
With Anthony Bourdain as well.
Right.
They were all working together. Is that who you were thinking of?
No.
Tim Bergling was Avicii's name.
Oh, who was so Chester Bennington's great friend. Now he was the lead singer for a different band, and the two of them had come forward just talking about child abuse and that they were going to move forward with the foundation. So somebody out there should know that. So Chester Bennington's great friend Chris Cornell as well. So there's no doubt about it that Chester Bennington, and of course the Q team, they know who Chester Bennington is. So he needs to be protected. And so therefore Chris Cornell absolutely does. So there's just absolutely no doubt about these names. Absolutely, you know. So, you know, for Colleen and I, we feel very strongly, did Walter Becker from Steely Dan actually die? Did Dan Fogelberg, because Dan Fogelberg's situation with cancer is very, very similar to George Harrison. He was in complete remission, suddenly like Harrison. It came back out of nowhere, and within days he was dead. And, you know, and again, when you know the truth of Dan Fogelberg and what he was writing in his songs and the depth of the truth and what he was aware of, what was happening to our children, then you know that these are people that it's too much. And like we shared with you with Tom Petty, Tom Petty's final song, which is a bonus for buying, you know, his last album, The Hypnotic Eye. And the bonus track was Playing Dumb, and I'm done with playing dumb, dumb, dumb. And it's all about the Catholic Church and the Pope with his red shoes. And you have gophers, which tunnel underneath the ground. And how do you sleep at night with all the horrors that you know? And I mean, come on. Tom did not randomly die. He's out there fighting for all of us. Absolutely fighting for all of us. So Tupac Shakur, all you had to see was Tupac's speech at his trial, which was one of the most amazing things. Somebody put it up on YouTube. It was gone the next day. It was the most incredible speech I've ever heard, where he addressed the judge and he addressed the jury, and he said, "I do not recognize your authority over me at all." And he said, "You, in your position of bullshit authority, can sentence me. You can influence this jury, and you can sentence me to prison." But he said, "Just know I do not go voluntarily. And he said, if I do not go voluntarily, then he said, God will be with me and I'll be free, because there's nothing that you can do to me, because I walk with God and you walk with Satan. It was just the most remarkable thing I've ever seen. And that's Tupac Shakur. And then he's gone. Or was he, of course, John Galt, and his wife has made powerful comments to the fact that he's very likely still alive. Biggie Smalls, same thing, part of the same group as well. And Princess Diana and her two children. Princess Diana would not have gone and left the real two children.
That's one thing I couldn't
with those fucking
reconcile. I
royals.
couldn't reconcile that Diana would leave her children
No.
and that you're viewing. And then as soon as someone, like I think it was Michael, negative 48 said she took her children, and it just went kaboom. Of course she did. Those are not her children that we've been viewing all these
That's
years.
right.
Of course she took her children. That's one thing I couldn't reconcile that. And I'm just like, how could that be true? How could she leave? And that I'm like, what a great sacrifice, but it's not even a sacrifice. You couldn't leave those children with those monsters. So there's no way. And she took them. She took them. I cried when I heard that, people. I cried. I could cry again. It's just like, wow, goosebumps. Of course she took them.
And who is Diana really? Who is Diana? Diana is Venus. And she is the higher feminine. She is the risen. She's tied to the Order of the Blue Rose. She's tied to the Jesus strand. And who's Melania Trump? Queen of Russia. There's so much stuff that's going to come out. It's going to have your head spinning around,
Right?
but in a good way. In a good way. It'll all make sense. It'll all link itself together. It's all good. So what you kind of see right now, don't be hard on the Q team. This is the art of war. This is Sun Tzu. Confusion is necessary against the enemy to protect people. So again, Melania Trump, absolute hero, playing the role that she's playing. And of course, the big guy, DJT. And there are still people on our site that are still posting stuff going, Charlie, you and Colleen are amazing. I love you so much, but you're just so wrong about Donald Trump. And it's like, no, you could not imagine how wrong you have got this. And the thing is, just pray for forgiveness for not having enough faith. And we've given you literally a million reasons how you can know and how you can absolutely trust in DJT. And you should know better. You should know better, because this is the truth, and you should be able to connect with the truth and not be fooled by the lie. So for those of you that are still shitting on DJT, you're wrong. You're wrong, and you need to get yourself on the right hand side of things. Who's Elvis Presley, really? Who's DJT, really? Who's General George Patton, really? We'll see. We'll see. So the list continues. John Candy, I mentioned John before, dying with Wagons East, Headed to God. Thank you, John. Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick, greatest filmmaker ever, and his last film just happens to be Eyes Wide Shut, where he cast Tom Cruise and Nicole and Nikki Kidman, two men, to play these fucking excuse for parents with children, to give all of this away. And then, apparently we're told that Kubrick's pacing around in circles as they're watching the final edit, the final cut of the movie, going, they're going to kill me, they're going to kill me, they're going to kill me, they're going to kill me. And of course, then they did kill him, or did they? Or did they? Would you not take Kubrick out for a lifetime of service to the truth? Did you not watch The Paths of Glory? Holy shit. And you still believe in organized society?
And Kubrick was good friends with Roddenberry?
Knew Gene Roddenberry. And of course, here again, who was his wife? his wife was German, and her father was one of the Nazis. One of evil Hitler was an architect. He was connected with all of this glorious architecture to God, glory to God architecture, and so that's the family that Kubrick married into this Adolf Hitler, German, righteous, God first family, and then he does all these movies about Satan and Satanism. So just saying, Stanley Kubrick. And I don't want to miss anybody here because they're heroes. They're absolutely heroes to us. Joan Rivers, come on, Joan Rivers, wow. Joan Rivers had to have been taken out. Steve Jobs, I don't know enough to know about Steve Jobs, but this is what they say.
It's very possible.
The truth with the lifestyle that he was living is contrary to what we're told about Steve Jobs. So it's very, very possible as well. And
Steve Irwin.
Steve Bloody Irwin, very important. Steve.
Who better to take out the swamp monsters
than Steve Irwin? Yeah. Steve's alive. Steve's been John Galted. We were, really hoping, again, Eric Wolfson from the Alan Parsons Project, the writer of all those incredible lyrics. We're hoping that Eric was John Galted as well. Remember, half of Leonard Skinner was taken out in the most bizarre fucking plane crash. Just bizarre shit. And Ronnie Van Zant, the singer and the lyricist for Leonard Skinner, can't have Ronnie influencing tens of millions of people with his gorgeous songs about God and the sacred feminine and the exalting of Jesus Christ. Can't have that. And so did they die? Because that fucking plane crash was a shit show. So was Ronnie Van Zant and half of the members of Leonard Skinner, were they protected? This is serious stuff, and so it goes to that end with Duane Allman and the Allman Brothers and Duane and Greg, and the music that they wrote. I'm sorry, but they wrote about God and they wrote about Jesus.
Married to or dating? She was married.
She was married to Greg Allman, but that's after Duane had his accident and died.
Now, if Cher's a man, that means he was married to a man.
That's right.
I think he would have known that.
Yeah. It's really not something you miss. So then JFK Jr., John Galted, Carolyn, John Galted, Carolyn's sister. This is very serious stuff because they were inseparable. Has to become John Galted as well. So Princess Di, Marilyn Monroe. We mentioned Robin Williams, Bruce and Brandon Lee, absolutely. River Phoenix and Raul Julia, I really believe very strongly so. They both allied with one another. They both went right after the cabal. They went after them and everything. They started talking about food. And, remember with River Phoenix and Raul Julia, and these is on shows like Phil Donahue and Oprah. This is massive audiences that are watching this stuff, and they're just going, like, the pharmaceutical industries are going into the Amazon rainforest, and they are learning in good faith all of these recipes for these ancient tinctures that are just coming from the plant life in the Amazon rainforest through all these ancients, these shamans who know all of this stuff. And then they're ordering these shamans to be murdered, and then they're advocating for all of this land to be completely destroyed, while then they synthesize the plant substances into pharmaceutical drugs and taking the natural form away from this. And this is Oprah going, Did we not want to talk about blood diamonds or anything like that? Did you want to change the subject or whatever? I mean, this stuff was incredible. And Raul Julia and River Phoenix were talking about fake food. They were talking that the average food that people eat is what's called processed food, and that these processed foods aren't really food. For food to be food, can't have a package, can't have ingredients and stuff. It was big stuff that they were talking about. And they were talking about how evil corporations were, and they both went out under the most bizarre of circumstances.
Somebody just mentioned Andre the Giant. Wouldn't that be lovely if he was
Yeah.
alive? That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I would hope so. Because obviously his giantism, where does that come from? From the lineage of the giants.
Yeah.
Very lovely man. Princess Bride, that was the one.
Yeah,
that
and Yvonne, that's a great point. Chester Bennington was on the soundtrack of the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer movie soundtrack. That's absolutely right. It's a white hat Q production from beginning to end. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. There's a young, really great young African American actor who's just all about God. Name is Chadwick Boseman, and Chadwick passed, I think you said, what was it, late 2019 or maybe 2020, I thought it was 2019. One of the roles he played was the #1 draft pick, Vontae Mack, in the Kevin Costner 2014 movie Draft Day, which is choosing godliness and those that are virtuous and righteous instead of what is popular, and those that lie, who are Satanists. That's what the movie's all about. And Chadwick Boseman is one of the key actors in that incredible white hat production as well. And so we think for sure that Chadwick Boseman was taken as well. So Roseanne Barr. Now we're gonna, I guess, transition here. We're gonna transition here into those that there may be a bit of a crossover here, but we're gonna transition into those that are still alive and that they've played the tough role, which is that they've taken it on the chin. These are people that have stayed loyal to God, and clearly they're loyal to Trump. They're loyal to the Q team. They're loyal to conservative family values. They're loyal to America. And you may not be aware of all of these names, but Jeff Bridges, and I've always liked Lloyd Bridges as an actor because he always struck me as just straight and narrow, and he only played these really strong, virtuous roles, which Kirk Douglas did as well. I always loved Kirk Douglas as an actor as well, and I just can't for the life of me see Kirk Douglas being evil. Now, Michael, I don't know, because of all of the shit that occurred in the second half of Michael Douglas's life. I can't say, but I just don't believe for a second that Kirk Douglas. But Lloyd Bridges, Jeff Bridges, therefore Bo Bridges, very, very likely all part of the Q team. And Jeff Bridges has been such a strong advocate for God. Who's he tied to within the music industry? Michael McDonald, Steely Dan, Boz Scaggs, Toto. Oh, it's you can't make this stuff up. It's so Michael Jackson. It's just incredible, just incredible. So in Hollywood. Again, Kevin Costner, Elijah Wood. Thank you, Elijah. We just love you. You think that they left that beautiful little kid with those blue eyes, those big blue eyes, they left him alone to be devoured? He would have been devoured by those Hollywood rats. That's why Mel Gibson went out of his way to put him in. We just recently watched that movie, and we were talking about Forever Young, when he's a pilot, a test pilot.
Such a good movie.
It is, and it's also very significant.
Justin will get it on his link.
Okay, it's also very significant about protecting Elijah Wood as well. which Elijah's always been on the right side of things. To that end, I believe very strongly that Sean Astin and the Astin family were all on the right side of this. I think Sean Astin's father and mom, Patty Duke Astin, I think she was in an Illuminati family, and I believe very, very strongly that they're on the right side of this. So Mel Gibson, what else can we say? I mean, the body of work. And by the way, you go back to Mel Gibson in the 70s, or sorry, in the 90s, in the 90s when Mel developed his stardom and fame and enough of a fortune, then all those movies that Mel was in, he was making, they're his movies, and they were being produced by his company, Icon Productions, which is the single eye of God. And they're all just telling you the truth. So Mel has been all in. And you talk about an effing patriot, He made the Patriot. He's William Wallace. How many movies are better than, what is the title of the William Wallace? Braveheart. Well, how many movies in the history of movies are better than Braveheart? I can't count any that are better. There's certainly a bunch of movies that are at that level, but they're none better than Braveheart. That's Mel Gibson. William Wallace, who taught us all that there's no such thing as life worth living unless you have freedom. And freedom is your ability to be one with God and to have a family.
And that you can either face your fear right now or let it bite you in the ass later, that you can't run.
Good point.
And you have no strength left to defend yourself because you've capitulated to the enemy, and all of your strength is gone. Andrew Breitbart, Colleen's writing down Freddie Mercury, absolutely. Bohemian Rhapsody, which I'll have up soon. Bohemian Rhapsody is Freddie Mercury's John Galt song. He's showing you his backstory, and he's showing you how he was John Galted out of this, or how he was going to be John Galted out of this in Bohemian Rhapsody. He's telling it all to you in Bohemian Rhapsody, which is easily one of the greatest songs ever written. Bob Marley, George Michael, Jim Croce, David Carradine, Ayn Rand, of course, Agatha Christie for that.
She staged her death once.
Absolutely, she did.
But didn't get away with it.
And what's the first novel when she, to get away from Mr. Christie, Mr. Illuminati monster, the arranged marriage that she was put into, and she had to fake her death to get away from Mr. Christie. What's the first story that she wrote? And critics call it her worst effort ever. Colleen will tell you it's my favorite Agatha Christie Hercule Poirot novel, The Big Four. She wrote The Big Four. The world is controlled by 4 people, 4 bloodlines, 4 families. It is a massive conspiracy, and they control everything, right down to the food that we're eating, every single aspect. And critics pan that as juvenile and the worst book that Agatha Christie ever wrote. It's The Big Four. And she did that after staging her death to get away from Illuminati Mr. Christie. Mr. Christie, you make good cookies. Yeah, they kill children. That's why they're good cookies. Hey, Mr. Christie. Fucking evil. Fucking vampires.
Isn't it funny that 13 reduces to 4? The 13 bloodline families, 13, 4?
That's right. In 413s, the four seasons of the 13 moons is the 52 Strongs, which is the Anu, not the Anunnaki space creatures out there, but just God and Mother. That Anu. And Isaac Cappy. Isaac's not dead. Isaac's a fucking hero. Isaac, we love you so much. You're so fucking courageous and so freaking funny. But you took this all so seriously, and you did just the most amazing job. And the way that Isaac Cappy and the Q team played with the last remains of Tom Hanks was brilliant. People think that Tom Hanks outfoxed Isaac Cappy. Yeah, you wait and fucking see how that little story vignette played itself out. Who's laughing? It isn't Tom Hanks. And Muhammad Ali, come on. Absolutely, Muhammad Ali.
Kobe Bryant.
Pure weak when you're really strong.
George Foreman, good guy. I think Joe Frazier, good guy. Kenny Norton, a good guy. I think a lot of people who were in wrestling. Again, take a look at the wrestling world. Hulk Hogan, huge supporter of Donald J. Trump. Trump has so many connections to WWF and WWE, and then the martial art kind of whatever that whole Dana White, right? Dana White from UFC or whatever. Huge Trump supporter. There's fucking good people all over the place. Now, we have to be cautious about all of this because the vast majority are freaking evil. But there are so many good ones that just stayed loyal to God when everybody else was selling us out, was selling all of us out to Satan. They didn't, and they risked everything to tell us the truth here. So you have to mention Roseanne Barr, and how about Herschel Walker, my favorite college football player ever. Herschel Walker talked about never going to a gym, never lifting the heavy weights. Have you ever seen Herschel Walker's physique? It is like Charles Atlas. It is such a perfect physique. And what did Herschel Walker say? Worked on my parents' farm. I carried 100-pound seed bags. I did push-ups. I did sit-ups. That's what I did. I didn't have time to go to a gymnasium. And now Herschel Walker is running for an American Senate. Do you know how great a senator Herschel Walker is going to make? The man is integrity. The man is pure light. He's pure light. He's a black man, and he's just pure light. He's absolutely pure light. You ever listen?
Those are the people moving forward that will make this is the best is yet to come. So true.
Yeah.
So true. Somebody had said something about Janet Jackson, good or bad? She has to be good.
Has to be good. She supported her brother. Nonstop through all of this. Has she continued with the distraction? That tells you she's playing a role. Again, there are so few families involved, but they're all in. These families are all in with helping the Q team, and there are not that many families involved. And they're all in.
Kim Clement, who does the prophesying or whatever, and someone says is he dead? Did he die?
I think so.
Okay, so that has to be the same with Veronica, Marilyn Monroe, right? The character she was playing had to die because she's coming back. So the same with Kim Clement. Now, who was playing Kim Clement?
Junior.
It's possible that it was
Junior.
Right. So very interesting when these people pass, and Trump's brother probably playing Trump.
Yeah, certainly. I think he's the heavy set Trump. Yeah, and of course, then the family connection. Who's going to be breaking massive truth coming up very, very shortly? Who's been a prisoner within England at the Ecuadorian embassy for all these years? Because what? Because he releases the truth, and you can't do that in a satanic world. Who's that? Julian Assange. You ready to find out who Julian Assange really is? Are you ready for any of this stuff? Playing powerful roles, family playing powerful roles. Patrick Swayze in the chat room, he's a fucking Texan. He's strong as tough as nails. And you know, and again, we were watching incredible Simon Pegg movie, Nick Frost Simon Pegg movie last night, Hot Fuzz. And, you know, and it's again, so, you know, what are we going to watch tonight? We're going to watch Bad Boys 2 and what was the first one? And the first one is Keanu Reeves
And Patrick
And
Swayze.
Patrick Swayze. Keanu Reeves and Patrick.
There's a
Patrick
calm
Swayze.
right there. When you see these people together and you know Keanu Reeves is a great guy. Yep. It's like, wow.
It's a massive calm. It's a massive calm. And what is he doing? Patrick Swayze wearing a Ronald Reagan mask is escaping. He's escaping over the barbed wire fence, and Keanu Reeves is the one who's letting him go. Fucking calm. It's just all calm. This is how you have to see this stuff, and it's always in these movies, but you have to know which are the movies, and again, the trilogy that Simon Pegg did with the zombie. What was the first movie of the trilogy? And then The World's End was the third of the trilogy. Hot Fuzz, then The World's End. The first one was their zombie movie. Someone will get it. Someone will get it in the chat room. And is Kaylee McEnany Jr.'s daughter? That's what Negative 48 is saying, and I'm prepared to absolutely accept that as well. Kaylee McEnany is the best press secretary that the United States has ever had.
Wow.
How old is she?
Wow.
Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun, yeah, that's
Shaun
right.
of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead.
Morgan
That's right.
Freeman.
Morgan Freeman, but it appears that Morgan Freeman is Jimi Hendrix, and so I wanted to sort of see whatever I could do to help prove or disprove that. But here's the thing: when you look into all the movies that Morgan Freeman does, it's interesting. In most movies, some of the big stars, directors, they'll have assistants, and those people will get named during the credits of the movie. But when you look at Morgan Freeman, after a certain point, Morgan Freeman is the only actor I know of that has 3 assistants. He has a personal assistant, he has a hair assistant, and he has a makeup assistant. And that's necessary to get Jimi Hendrix to look like Morgan Freeman and get all those freckles put on and stuff. So again, where there's smoke, there's fire. So
What a wonderful voice he has.
If you're thinking again that he could be Jimi Hendrix, again, where there's smoke, there's fire. He has 3 personal assistants in all of his movies. So let me get back to this because I do not want to miss anyone. This is serious stuff. So the Quaid brothers, Quaid, Dennis and Randy Quaid. Randy had to run to Canada, and now Randy's going to throw a party, and beer's on. Beers on, Randy. But isn't it wonderful to see Dennis Quaid supporting Donald Trump as well? So that is the Quaid brothers. And Jesus, there have to be good people. They can't all be fucking Satanists that sell us for shekels and this fake
The vampires would have taken us down by now had there not been resistance. And the resistance has been growing and growing and growing and waiting for the perfect moment to take them down. And trust me, you don't have to trust me. Do the research. And when you do the research, you can trust yourself. This is the perfect moment. We're living in the finale. This is amazing. This is amazing. I wake up every morning and I think, oh my God, this is actually happening. This is actually happening to us. Yeah. And I know I get anxious and I know I get impatient, but it's like this plan, and Eugene knows, and this plan has just been like, wow, it's going to blow our freaking minds to know how intense this plan is and how many years this has taken and the patience that these people have had to have. And they had to watch the fucking evil taking place all around them.
And you're showing no patience.
As it was happening to them all around them. And they gave up their entire lives. And our lives were completely, almost destroyed as well. All of us, being MK Ultra'd and we're destroying ourselves from the inside as well. We were imploding because of all the programming we had. But these people, oh my God, we are so blessed to be in this time, you guys. And we are Q, and we are learning to be Q, and we will absolutely take these demons down. And it isn't just that, I mean, the Q team is taking these demons down, and they have taken most of the really big, ugly ones down, but there are more to go. And I keep saying, you have to go inside. We are the insiders in, as Eugene and Justin and Charlie are here to attest that when we are insiders, we go inside and we clean the cabal up inside of ourselves, because the left brain has been programmed to be a vampire, a parasite, and it is taking, and it will take our entire ecosystem down to get what it wants. It thinks it wants control, and it thinks it wants all of this, but it really needs to be put in its place, like we talked about earlier, putting it in that 10% slot. So that's our job, is to put our own cabal, drain our own swamp. We can do this. We have to do this.
Just look at, for this cancer thing and the use of chemotherapy and radiation therapy. It's just the manifestation of the left brain, right? This is what the left brain would literally do to us for control. It would literally spray you with mustard gas from World War I, chemotherapy, or blast you with radiation to gain control. This is what the fucking left brain monsters do. This is it. They would chew off their own arm in spite of themselves just to have a few more shekels. This is the sickness and the depravity of what we're talking about here. This is why we have to win. This is why deception is necessary, because this is Sun Tzu, the art of war, and good must defeat evil. You cannot lose to evil. We must win this. So we have to be all in. Hello.
Hi, Feliz.
Hi, Peasy. Hello, Feliz.
As 48 always says, but nothing's happening. So if you're asking when we're going to get there, get the hell out of my car.
I love that. And it's so true. So we're hearing Jack Nicklaus, the golfer, legendary golfer, is a good one. It's so wonderful to hear. I've heard Gary Player is a goodly, godly man. I hope that is very much true as well. Ted Nugent, of course, Christy Alley. Now, here's a great one. Colleen did the work on this. Big Trump supporter is this actress named Christy Swanson. She's the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She's the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So then that tells you who was making Buffy the Vampire Slayer in Hollywood to try to get this message out to a younger audience. Maybe the Q team, and she's a Trump supporter. Christy Swanson, who's the original Buffy the Vampire. You can't make this shit up. It's just it's incredible, absolutely incredible. Cat Stevens, are you kidding? Cat Stevens is all in with God, always was. Yusuf Islam, all in with God.
Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton, again, you know what? Why is Bill Paxton in all of these movies? Why is he in all the movies with who's our director that? Oh my God, Hunt for Red October and Predator and Die Hard. Went to jail for everything again.
Tiernan.
John McTiernan. Again, not for nothing. John McTiernan didn't go to prison on our behalf for nothing. The Hunt for Red October is happening now. This stuff. Johnny Cash, are you kidding me? Johnny Cash, you better believe Johnny Cash is on the right-hand side of all of this. Absolutely. And Johnny Cash very, very likely could still be alive. That's right. And that, yeah, absolutely. And somebody, Steve McQueen, tough as fucking nails. Paul Newman, tough as fucking nails. Are you kidding me? Again, career Hollywood actors like Hugh O'Brien and stuff. Just authenticity as the day is long. All of these strong leading men in Hollywood. Absolutely. You know, Steve McQueen dies of fucking cancer. Steve McQueen wanted nothing to do with these fucking vultures and wanted to be taking them down. Right? And like I said, in the movie The Great Escape, who did they pair together as a trio? The the three that were working together. They were making the moonshine, but they were hanging out with each other. It was Steve McQueen with Jim Rockford. The Rockford Files, Jim Rockford. He's one of our most favorite actors. Come on, somebody quickly get me.
The Rockford Files. Come on, guys. Anyone?
I'm not passing.
How do you spell it?
The Rockford Files.
Rockford Files. Come on.
No.
Garner?
James Garner.
James Garner. We absolutely love James Garner. James Garner was always on the right-hand side of all of this. And in that movie, you had, in The Great Escape, you had Steve McQueen, who are digging tunnels underneath the ground to expose, the bad guys. You have Steve McQueen, James Garner, and then the Canadian actor, again, another very, 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 oh, Jesus, just had all of their names as well. And he's such another great, strong character. Let me, Eugene, do some more gematria.
Yeah, so Power 77, Christ 77, Dear Lord 77, Of Light 77, Sacrifice 77, God of Bible 77, Is Lord 77, Stars 77, Disciple 77, Sacred Code 77, Biblical Code 77, Zodiacs 77, Wake Up 77, Do Zodiac 77, Exist 77, and as Charlie said, Dopamine 77.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Eugene, for doing that. That's such powerful stuff. And so what I was thinking about the third amigo in The Great Escape was James Coburn. And James Coburn, same thing, strong. And then that reminds me that in The Great Escape, of course, also features Charles Bronson. There's no way that Charles Bronson was on the wrong side of this shit. Again, there was just, when Hollywood needed a product, they had so many strong leading men that only played strong, righteous, virtuous leading men. So they're littered all over the place. Don't kid yourself. Paul Newman is not a fucking bad guy at all. Paul Newman is very, very likely he was John Galted. Same with Joanne Woodward, his wife, who's the ultimate atypical Hollywood wife when, Paul Newman could have had any woman in the world, but he chose the beautiful, inwardly and outwardly beautiful Joanne Woodward. So, I don't think for a fucking second that Paul Newman sold us out. He didn't.
I forget what I was going to say.
Sorry.
Okay. So now imagine that the technology that has been on the side of the white hats, they have a technology, we would call it a Tesla technology. And we're talking about the ability to extend our lives because it keeps you in a higher frequency, it keeps you clean. We're talking med beds. We're talking, they have the information of the ancients of how to live properly. So this information that's been suppressed from all of us and how we've been fed pizza and Goodyear bars or whatever they're called, all sorts of candy and disgusting things and human parts and all this horrible stuff that they fed us. And we, unbeknownst to us, we ate it. So the other side has had all of these technologies and all of these incredible things to keep and extend their lives. So when they say that they were dying and all of these John Galted people were, they had the ability to, if they even did have any illnesses, they had the ability to cure them. We've had the ability to cure cancer for, not we ourselves, but mankind has had the ability to cure cancer for a very long time. So none of these things had to happen. And if these were good, godly people, they were absolutely taken and extended their lives. So we're talking, John Wayne. I don't know. You think John Wayne?
No, I don't.
Know.
There's enough stuff. There's enough stuff for me with John Wayne that showed him to be a liar, and that's the biggest thing for me. Is in their personal lives were these strong, strong, uprighteous people. So I don't want to say too much about John Wayne at this moment, but my research has not supported John Wayne.
So we always hold out hope, but
Yeah.
there is absolutely that ability. So this moving forward is what we have to look forward to. So when Trump says the best is yet to come, it really, really is.
We're gonna win.
We're going to win.
Because God wins, and that's all you have to do is cast thy net to the right, and then you're going to win. Because remember, God's creation, which is Mother Earth, Mother Mary, magnetism, is eternal life. So what are you not getting about this?
The straight and narrow.
The cabal is the left brain. The cabal is a temporal wave. That's what electricity is. It's temporary. It comes and it goes. Why would you choose that? Because you don't think you have a choice. This is as big as anything, or bigger than anything that Colleen and I did. We're the ones that came along 5 years ago and said, you have a choice. And you're missing this whole world of magnetism. Where did it go? Tesla knew all about it. Hitler knew all about it. But you can't mention Tesla and Hitler.
And this isn't something that people are going to sell. This is something that is for everyone. This is good. This is from God. This is a gift from God. So, you aren't going to have to pay for this. This is something that's going to be our born right. Okay,
I don't want to miss anybody here, and we're all gonna start chiming in on some names here, including you as well. I don't want to miss anyone. This stuff is serious. Colleen and I take this very, very seriously. I don't want to miss a single name here. So, Keanu Reeves, of course, Brendan Fraser, James Woods, John Voight, Clint Eastwood. Do you think for a second, all those movies that, and it's the same, you just see the pattern with these good guys all over the place, Kevin Costner and Clint Eastwood, they're using all of their money, they made their fortune, then they're creating their own film companies, they're making their own family, and then they have this family that makes all these films. And it's all about family, it's all about doing the right thing and stuff. It's just strong characters, because this is what we need. We need strong examples, strong people to show us to be strong. This is the way. John Voight, Clint Eastwood, Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek. And if you're not on that train yet, geez, all you have to do is just look at the original or the Star Trek The Next Generation. Those are the two series plus the movie that Gene Roddenberry had his hands on. That's just pure exaltation of God and God's teaching.
So sorry for this noise in the background. Sorry.
J.R.R. Tolkien. Are you kidding me? Original Q team. C.S. Lewis. Original Q team. The Chronicles of Narnia and the creation of Middle Earth and the Lord of the Rings. This is the Bible. This is variations of the Bible. This is teaching you these holiest of scriptures. This is God First 101 with Tolkien and Lewis.
Someone asked, was Jesus John Galted?
Yeah, and ultimately, this is very possible too. It ultimately is very possible that
Great question.
Yeah. And to remember, the cabal are very limited in their response to these things, because then they get caught in the great lie if they say anything about it. So we don't know the full story yet. And yes, let's X for Jesus. Absolutely. So Ayn Rand,
yes,
Julian Assange, Chuck Norris. Again, Steven Seagal and Chuck Norris, really great friends. What are you going to, they may not have been the greatest actors in the world, but once again, what are they? Strong, stand-up characters, stand-up guys doing the right thing. Strong. So, wow. Vladimir Putin, who was friends with Chuck Norris and Steven Seagal. Jesse Ventura. Jesse, we fucking love you. We love you, you Navy SEAL. We absolutely love you. Jesse, I don't know what Jesse's doing these days. I haven't seen him for a long time. I hope the whole thing with cannabis oil and he's shaking. is helping. I don't know. I heard he might have got into beds and mattresses and pillows and stuff. Do you know anything about that?
I do, actually.
Mike Lindell. I don't know.
You can't mistake that voice. And when you watch the Predator, you look and you see Jesse Ventura's on there, and you look at him and you're like, that's Mike Lindell, a younger version, and you're like, wow. Okay. Not a hard stretch at all.
No.
And that voice, you can't not know that voice.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, so Jesse Ventura. Colleen wanted to add in Judge Janine. Scott Baio, again, the Quades. Jim Caviezel. Jimmy, a great actor, could have been given any role that he wanted. No, Jim Caviezel just stayed to doing the roles that are saving children, the roles that are exalting God, that are teaching the truth about Jesus Christ. That's Jim Caviezel. This is what these heroes have stood up for. Sylvester Stallone, creating strong characters, may not have been the most poetic of characters or the most eloquent of characters, but he's showing you that these are uncorruptible people that constantly are doing the right thing. Even though they're constantly being betrayed by people around them, they just shake it off. They shake it off as a good man does. They shake it off. Sylvester Stallone, don't you ever discount or downplay Sly Stallone's role in all of this. He's played a huge role. Rocky is a part of Rambo, is a part of Americana. He has a gift. Bruce Lee, are you kidding me? Of course, Bruce Lee. Of course, Brandon Lee. Of course.
Brandon Lee's last movie was his calm that he was being John Galted.
Yeah, The Crow.
Absolutely.
The Crow. The whole thing.
The mystery around both of their deaths because they didn't really die.
Yeah, then Eric Clapton has showed himself fully over these years, especially after George passed away. Eric Clapton has showed himself to be on the right-hand side of all of this. Absolutely. He has. Charles Bronson, that's what we were you must have missed it. We were just talking about that. Absolutely. Absolutely. The real Paul McCartney, I don't see the real Paul McCartney doing any of this. That's why he was taken out. Now, was he John Galt? Clearly, they had to know that this was going to happen. So, and again, the cabal, when these people are John Galted, there's nothing the cabal can say, or else it gives away their role in all of this, or their intentions in all of this. So that's with the Q team. If they can be successful in pulling these kids out, you're never going to hear about it from the cabal, because that would give away the plan of the cabal. So it's a built-in safety mechanism. Then you just have to keep them in Atlantis, behind the magnetic curtain, to keep them and their families safe.
We think Nicolas Cage is a good guy.
We do. You just have to look at the movies, and then you just have to look at Nicolas Cage's career, especially after he did National Treasure. His career just tanked.
And he married Presley's daughter.
He married a Presley daughter. So, again, if you believe that the Kennedys would allow an evil, rotten Arnold Schwarzenegger, I don't believe that. I don't believe that bullshit at all. Stevie Ray Vaughan's fucking Texan. He's on the right side of things. They may be this, they may be that, but they're strong, and they have a strong moral compass. They know right and they know wrong. Patrick Swayze knew right and Patrick Swayze knew wrong. Stevie Ray Vaughan knows right and knows wrong.
We're praying that Clapton's child was John Galt.
Yes. Yeah. Roger Waters, come on. Of course, Roger Waters in Pink Floyd. Who else came out 20 years ago and said the most evil government on this earth, and governments are evil, the most evil government is the government of Israel. They're the real bandits, but they keep presenting themselves as as untouchable and holier than thou, and they're the biggest evil ones. And then Roger Waters, all of his private tours and stuff all got shut down because all the unions suddenly didn't want to deal with Roger Waters and stuff. Who does this shit? How many other famous celebrities did you ever see? Mel Gibson. What did they do to Mel? They just dismantled Mel Gibson for calling out the fakery of Israel and these fake Jews. That's what Roger Waters did. What Roger Waters stands for. Strong characters. Frank Zappa, clearly Frank was on the right-hand side of this. Don't think for a second that his wife Gail was, but absolutely Frank was. And in the last few years of his life, Frank.
Real quick, family, I love you guys. You guys are.
Thank you.
Bye,
We
Eugene.
love you, Eugene. Thank you.
Did he say yes to? Okay. Thank you, Eugenio. So Frank Zappa, the last few years of his life, was telling anyone who would listen the whole truth. Dan Fogelberg, absolutely. We feel very strongly that Dan Fogelberg was John Galted. Don't want to miss a single name here. Let me just quickly continue to go through this. Scott Bio, Jim Caviezel, Sly Stallone, Denzel Washington.
Now, we're not
surrounded.
talking about John Galt. We're talking about people who are working on the side of the White
So
Hats.
that's right. These are the heroes. These are the heroes that stayed in the public face and have been slammed. Kanye West, Jack Lord. You may not remember from Hawaii Five-0, but Jack Lord was just a Christ-like figure. Hugo Weaving has played the most important characters in virtually all the most important movies. He's Elrond in The Lord of the Rings. He's V in V for Vendetta. He is Mr. Smith in The Matrix. I mean, Hugo Weaving has to be one of the good guys. Because of the Batman movies, you have to take a hard look at Christopher Nolan, the Nolan brothers. You absolutely do. You have to take a hard look. You look at the gematria of Christian Bale and the movies that Christian Bale has played in. So you have to take Jeff Healey. Absolutely, I think Jeff Healey definitely was John Galted and is absolutely with us. Just a strong, righteous, moral
Roger
character.
Waters, absolutely.
Unbelievable guitar player. Joel Silver. Now, you may not know who Joel Silver is, but every good guy movie, every most important movie ever, who is it produced by? Joel Silver. Silver is the mother, Mary. Joel Silver. Remember that
And
name?
maybe that's
Go-
JFK. I don't know.
Go to IMDb, type in Joel Silver, and then click on producer and look at the movies that he's done. In fact, while we got you here, let me just take you on a quick tour, and I'll just quickly type in his name here.
Yeah, and just for everyone, there's no way to know all of these absolutely. These are just based on the research that's been done and how these people present themselves. This is the picture that we want to we hope is true. So it's going to be exciting to really uncover all of these different things. We can't know the roles that people have been playing or why people have done certain things or played certain parts. But all will be revealed in the end.
Yeah. Okay, so talking to you about Joel Silver, right? So Joel Silver, Xanadu. Joel Silver, 48 Hours. Joel Silver, Brewster's Millions. If you remember, that's with John Candy. Joel Silver, Weird Science. Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Lethal Weapon with Mel Gibson, the entire Lethal Weapon series. Predator, again with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Action Jackson. Die Hard, the first Die Hard. Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze. Lethal Weapon, it's like a who's who, right? Lethal Weapon 2, Die Hard 2, Predator 2, The Last Boy Scout, Lethal Weapon 3, did a Demolition Man, Sly Stallone, Assassin, wow, the Bordello of Blood, wow, telling you all about the vampires, Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson, Lethal Weapon 4 with Mel Gibson, The Matrix, Made Men, Freedom, the TV series.
Dungeons and Dragons. Tales from the Crypt.
The Matrix Revisited, Final Flight of the Osiris, Matrix Reloaded, Enter the Matrix, Matrix Revolutions. So, I mean, you just go on, and V for Vendetta. Veronica Mars, which was a fantastic series about getting to the truth behind the cabal. Very, very, very much so. Very underrated. Speed Racer. So,
Wow.
so there you go with the Wachowskis again. Rock and Rolla. Uh-huh.
And we have a theory about the Wachowskis.
Oh, you say it.
Well, you know, it's been really hard to try to figure out exactly what's going on. The movies that they produce are phenomenal. Now, was it really them writing them? We didn't know. But when you look at this and you look at how they had to turn into women, and your mind is just blown at that point, and you're like, well, they have to be cabal. But then you're thinking, but there's a white hat group too, and they're making these incredible movies. And so what if they pretended to be women? Because they both made not very great women.
Not very convincing.
Not very
It was
convincing
it was
women.
silly,
It
actually.
was silly. And you're just like, okay, two brothers and the wives stay with them. They're continuing to be married. You're just like, well, what's going on here? So the whole idea that the Wachowskis are white hats making incredible movies, but playing a part. So it just, in our minds, it just seems like, yeah, that's exactly what they've been doing. Their work is unprecedented.
Yeah. So, and again, just going through with Joel Silver, Sherlock Holmes, The Book of Eli, Unknown, Hail Mary, the Gringo again, and just so you see all the people all the actors that he's constantly working with as well. So it's
My friends call me Johnny. That's an interesting one.
Yeah. So it's all this same list, of the good guys. So let me just continue through here. Joel Silver, the Wachowskis. Again, you have to take a hard look at Leonard Nimoy, because again, Gene Roddenberry wouldn't budge on Leonard Nimoy playing Spock. It was a deal breaker. He's the only one that survived from the original pilots. Paul Newman, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost. So Mark Gatiss, Stephen Moffat of the BBC Sherlock, Harry Greenwood, who's the author of the Miss Franny Fisher series, both the book and TV shows out of Australia are absolutely fantastic. Gary Busey, who did a scary good job of Buddy Holly, and was on his way to stardom in Hollywood. Except Hollywood had other plans, and has the motorcycle accident. And then from that moment forward, Gary Busey is just portrayed as a mental lunatic, and isn't taken seriously. Again, Gary Busey, big Donald Trump supporter. And for those of you, again, who maybe don't know about Chris Pratt, now, did he end up actually marrying the Kennedy girl?
I believe they're married, but they have a child.
Okay. So he married into the Kennedys. Chris Pratt goes out of his way to teach God, to teach Jesus Christ, to stand up for children, to stand up for families and conservative values. He makes no bones about it. He played in Guardians of the Galaxy. Chris Pratt is another one of this younger generation that has found themselves on the right-hand side of things. There's no two ways about it. His beautiful teachings about God and about Jesus are just are beautiful. They're absolutely gorgeous. And, you know, we'd be remiss if we didn't again mention Roger Hodgson from Supertramp. That's not saying that the whole band Supertramp are good guys, white hats. We don't feel that at all, but Roger Hodgson absolutely is. Roger Hodgson is absolutely goodly and godly. Nikola Tesla was Tesla Galted. You know, you go right back, and I think that there's a very strong chance that Tesla is still alive and that Tesla was John Galted. Harold Ramis, Ivan Reitman, Joss Whedon. You know, there are people that have risked everything to stand up for what is right, and to stand up for the truth. And, you know, to Colleen and I, that they're heroes. I mean, again, you have to mention Kid Rock. There's a Hollywood actor, Robert Davi. Again, didn't get a lot of the bigger roles and stuff. You know him from the Goonies. He was one of the criminal family, but really a great actor and absolute staunch supporter of God and staunch supporter of Donald Trump through all of this. Coach Mike Ditka from the Chicago Bears, huge believer in God and a huge supporter of Donald Trump. Mary Hart from Entertainment Tonight. Mary Hart, always very, very strong moral character. She was a very, very strong woman, very devout in her beliefs about God, and a very strong supporter of Donald Trump is Mary Hart as well. And from the Baldwin family, Stephen Baldwin is a devout supporter of God and is a huge supporter of Donald Trump as well. So there are good people. There are good people. And, you know, what we want to close the show today is that, well, we need to be our own hero. And this is very, very, very true and very, very important. Colleen and I have felt alone for so long, and we've just known within our heart of hearts that there are lots of people that didn't sell us out, that there are good people that have stayed loyal to God and have cared about our children all the way through this. And, you know, they're heroes. And while we don't want to live in a reality where we're constantly putting others other than God before ourselves, these people stood up when nobody was standing up for us, and they're heroes. They are absolutely heroes. And so when I hear Keanu Reeves, I'm just moved to jello inside. And when I hear Mel Gibson and Jim Caviezel, when I think of you know, again, Sylvester Stallone and Clint Eastwood and everyone who has had the most enormous fame and fortune and refused to partake in the cabal.
So when Trump says, I would like to know what it feels like to have lost everything and then see who stands up for you, these people have been John Galted in a sense. They did exactly that. And then they had to become, you know, normal people. I don't know how normal they went out and lived their lives, like Pastor Bob Joyce or, you know, any of these, Marilyn Monroe. Were they playing a part in society, or were they, you know, on their own little Atlantis? I don't know. I can't even imagine, but what an incredible story that's going to be when that's all revealed to us. But obviously they've been out there doing the work. Wow. And all of you out there who are doing the work. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
These have made the ultimate sacrifice in letting go of all of that. But each of us who are standing in the truth have made a similar sacrifice, because we've all had family and friends fall away when we do this. And so we can understand what that feels like. And you guys have just taken it a step further. You literally had everything fall apart, fall away from them, because they knew it was the right thing to do. They knew that they weren't going for selfish desires. They were going for the righteous path and what God was calling them. God's always calling, and we have to answer the call, and they answered the call in such a powerful way. So we can take these examples not to idolize, not to put on a pedestal and show it as some unreachable space, but as these beautiful examples that we are to strive to be in every way, where when God does call, we answer it and we go fully into that righteous path through action. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible, and we will spend eternity just thanking these gracious souls for the things that they have done and what they have provided for us, because they knew it was the right thing to do.
And for all of us, like you said, Justin, who've lost family members, not that they've died, but that they've just left us because we're conspiracy theorists, we're crazy, we're just living a radical life, thinking and believing radical things, when MK Ultra's kicking their ass and occasionally kicking our ass, but we have given up those relationships when you know better and you got to do better. Not everybody comes with you, right? So it's a sacrifice, but nothing can stop what is coming, and nothing will stop us from what we're doing. So we're a family now. We're all together. We're a family, and more are going to be joining our family every day. You can feel it. You can feel it in the air. It's absolutely happening, and people are waking up, by the thousands out there, maybe millions. So it's just like, it's happening. It's coming. And I know at the end, Q said, that even the most devout patriot is going to question at the end. So those days are still coming for all of us, but we have to hold the line. We absolutely have to hold the line. We can do this.
And what's the first song ever from the rock band Toto? First song, their first single, Hold the Line. Hold the line, Toto. They're all in.
Hold the line. So our next
They're
show, we're
all
going to
in.
start it with Hold the Line and get shut down.
Yeah, love isn't always on time. So I hope we've done a worthy job today for anyone who's listening in, watching, because you're heroes. You're heroes. Every single one of you that stood for God when it would have been so easy to just sell us out, sell all the rest of us out like every one of these other fuckers have done. You didn't. And the ones that stayed, like Mel Gibson, have just taken it on the chin. I mean, there aren't enough words for all of us to express to Mel Gibson how much we love him, how much we appreciate him, how important he is, how selfless he is, how strong he is. He's William Wallace. Do you not get this? Why did he act that role so well? Because he's William Wallace, because the blood of William Wallace and the will of William Wallace runs purely through him. And he would rather die than to be anything less than a full force flight child of God. And neither would Colleen, neither would I, neither would Justin, neither would Eugene. We are
And
all,
Sinead
and
Dante.
Shani and Dante, we are all in with God. We are all in with God. And remember,
And we're all in with this plan. We're behind it.
Yeah.
1,000%.
As much as we know, nobody else within the truth community was attacked at gunpoint, 10 separate occasions and stuff. We are all in, and we have been from day one. We've been this way our entire lives, and that's where, for Colleen and I, we just knew that it just couldn't be that there's just evil and there's nothing we can do about it. There have to be good people. The things that Jesus did and stood for, there have to be people like us that are so moved by this that you would give all of your life and your essence to hold to something that beautiful, that pure, that right. Who wants to betray our sacred mother? Like, who are these people? So we just have to say no. We must always say no to evil, and we must hold these that did the work when the rest of us were in despair and swooning. The ones who stayed loyal to God, we must absolutely heap our love and our praise upon them. And I thank them to the base of my soul, I thank all of them for standing up for God. Bruce Lee, Brandon Lee, my God, it just goes on and on. Michael Jackson, who took it on the chin more than Michael Jackson? Why?
Maybe Trump, but I don't know.
And of course, but I mean, ultimately Donald Trump. And why? It's because of what they know about who they are and what they stand for. This is why they hate these people, because of what they stand for. And again, for those of you that continue to attack Trump, how do you not see this? How do you not get the fact that there is no one in history that is more vilified, more hated, and more attacked than Donald Trump? And you're still questioning whether you think he's a good guy? It's what we're saying to you. You need to get on the right-hand side of this. You're on the wrong side of this right now if you're questioning Donald J. Trump. So, final comments?
Our website. Want to talk about our website?
It's a fantastic website. Justin talks about it on virtually every single show. Great thanks to Tony. I'm spending more and more time on there. Very soon, I'll only be there. This is the only place that you'll be able to find any posts, anything.
FreakSenseWorld.com and FreakSenseTV.news.
And what I wanted to share with everyone is that recently Colleen put into the store a new T-shirt. It's amazing, and it's my favorite. And this is.
I'm getting better. I'm working on it.
This is Abraham Lincoln, the Vampire Slayer, right? That shirt, that is a kick-ass shirt. And it is so well done. And we are vampire slayers, and it's never going to stop. It's never, ever, ever, ever going to stop. So it's like home team uniform. Home team uniform, we need to wear it, and we're not going to be taking it off, because we're never, ever going to stop hunting vampires. We cannot allow.
And all of the proceeds from the T-shirt sales and everything goes towards the upkeep of the website. And Tony, who's put so much time, energy, resources, and money into this website. Bless you, Tony. Like, seriously, the work that this woman has done for us is just, wow, it's incredible. So we want to give back to her. We really do. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm creating these designs, and I'm getting better. So if you want to support there, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and I do think George Carlin was John Galted, as well as Bill Hicks, and I really do feel George Carlin was all in against the fucking cabal, and so absolutely. And again, if you have not watched Dennis Wise's DVD series, The Greatest Story Never Told, 6 hours, Truth of Adolf Hitler's Germany, you need to get it. It's just something that you'll want to have for yourself. And then Europa, the 9-hour marathon, is I don't know how anything could be better than Dennis Wise's The Greatest Story Never Told, but it probably is a little bit. It's so good, Europa. And then there's Hellstorm, the documentary, which is 2 hours. And then remember, you need to watch. I'll continue to put links up for it. Right now, it's on the new version of LBRY TV. It's the only place that guaranteed to host it. And that's my 2-hour presentation about Adolf Hitler and Adolf Hitler's Germany.
Which we're going to redo.
We're going to redo it, redo the audio, all of it. And remember, with everyone, what I did in those 2 hours is to give you endless evidence to prove what Adolf Hitler actually did. So what did his everyday Germany look like from 33 to 39? What's the truth about World War I? What's the truth about the Treaty of Versailles? What's the truth about the Weimar Republic? What is the truth about Adolf Hitler coming to power and the brown shirts? What were they for? Antifa, that's the origins of Antifa running wild in Germany, in the brown shirt. Were created by Hitler to get rid of Antifa and fast, as they were targeting and murdering children. So it's a must-watch podcast. Everything I did there is my own research, and it's flawless research, and it's all there for you. So it's another piece of this puzzle. If you're still thinking that Adolf Hitler and Germany caused World War I or World War II or any of this shit, you're lost. You're absolutely lost. Germans are absolutely brilliant, wonderful, godly people. They have been attacked because of this, because they're so intelligent, because they're so naturally goodly and godly. They have been demonized because of this. And if you're on the wrong side of this, don't ever ask me to apologize. I will scream at you like a lion because I know the truth, because I needed to know the truth, because I did the research. This is decades to find out the truth of all of this. And I will not bow to anyone and what they think is the truth, or how dare you? How dare you get this most important story wrong and blame it on the wrong people? Because when you blame Adolf Hitler and these idiots in the truth community, once again, lazy. Hitler is a Rothschild. With the Anschluss of Austria, okay, in 1938, with the Anschluss of Austria, when Germany and Austria became the fatherland together, wholeness, one nation under God. What did Adolf Hitler do? He went into Vienna and he took down the head of the Hydra. He shut down the Rothschild banking system, and he arrested Baron Louis Philippe Rothschild and held him for ransom.
So what he started, JFK was continuing, and Trump will finish.
Finished. So you bullshit, you people call yourself fucking truthers, and you say Hitler's a fucking Rothschild. Do your own fucking research. He arrested Baron Louis Philippe Rothschild, and he shut down the Federal Reserve banking system for the entire world.
Did he not take away the Freemasons?
Sure. First thing he did is
because they were infiltrated.
Outlawed usury. He got rid of all of these fake Jew banks.
So we won't start another podcast right now.
Yeah. And
can't get him going.
He outlawed Freemasonry, and he showed you the truth of what Freemasonry was supposed to be. Did it, created a museum.
So we will redo that podcast, and you'll have all of Charlie all day long talking about it. It'll be amazing.
So you will not get a retraction. You'll not get an apology. You better apologize to me for being on the wrong side of this. Adolf Hitler, good guy. Germans, good guy. Donald J. Trump's father, which is General George Patton, knew it and told us all.
So we love you.
Yeah, love you guys. If you want to come over to my channel tonight, we're going to have I See Clearly first episode of a series on iridology. So we'll be looking at my pictures, breaking down how that's related to health. And then tomorrow we've got our Q&A with the three of us. So we'll be back again tomorrow night.
It's Friday. Wow. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, so that's at 9 p.m. Central tonight, and then 7 p.m. Central tomorrow for the Q&A.
Thank you, Amanda. Amanda's got it on the chat, afreaksenseworld.com.
Yeah, get over on the
Check
website.
it out. It's a great platform.
Love you
and
guys.
Our family will be there. It's like better than Facebook.
God bless you, Princess Di. God bless you, Michael. God bless. Leaving everybody out. It's just ridiculous. God bless you, Mel Gibson. God bless you, Keanu Reeves. God bless all of you for standing up for God when nobody else was. Thank you, thank you, thank you. DJT, the Kennedys, my God. Thank you, 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 thank you to all of you.
And he's not exaggerating. He's not exaggerating one bit.
It's better. It's going to be better than you could ever imagine, and it's happening. Nothing can stop it. Everything's underway. So we'll see you tomorrow night. See Justin tonight. That's going to be a great show with iridology. Justin, thank you for coming over and doing the show. Thank you to Eugene for being here. Eugene had to take Lily home, but love you guys. Thank you for doing the work. You're our heroes too. So God, we love you, Father.
We love you guys.